All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fight. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night, Hernandez versus Rodriguez, taking a look at and giving our predictions for the upcoming UFC Fight Night, Nurmagomedov versus Song. To do all of that with me, as always, the man, myth, and legend. You know him, you love him. He's the Ohio player. His name is Mr. Chase Parton. Chase, how the hell are you?
I'm doing very, very good, man. This is going to be another good night, of course. It is Monday. We had fights on Saturday. We actually may have some fights to talk about from another day other than Saturday. But other than that, listen, it's going to be a good night. I'm happy to be here. Thinker. Thank you, not thanker. Jesus.
Well, you're the thinker of the thinker, and I appreciate it. Yes, I also am happy to be here. We've got some great fights to talk about, both here and with that show called the Contender Series. Chase, I don't know if you were watching, but pretty good week last week, huh?
That was definitely a good week. This is the reason that I like watching it with my dad. I feel like this is a really good time for one to show my dad prospects that he's not going to remember in 2 years or whatever. But I can always go back and show him, be like, "You remember watching this?" And be like, "No, I never saw this in my life." And I'm like, "Exactly. We're going to watch it again, brother, and you're going to be just as happy."
Yeah, well, I mean, you get all these great fighters and these great fights, and then they don't debut for a year and a half, 2 years. So, we'll see about that if any of these people actually do make their debut. But one of them did. We got a guy on this card we'll talk about who was on the Contender Series and made his actual debut on this UFC Fight Night. But you want to go over the Contender Series now? Get it out of the way?
Let's go ahead and do that. But what we'll do to get out the way, but we want to make it, such a larger portion of the show if we could, but Bleeding Edge, thank you for being here. JH, thank you for being here. Michael, of course, thank you. What was his name? Rafayuski?
Rafayuski. Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, our dude in Brazil, brother.
Yeah.
Obrigado.
Hell yeah. Appreciate you guys for being here, of course. Thank you guys. That was a little shout out portion. Like I said, we wish it could be a lot longer, but we got to get into all these amazing fights, of course.
Absolutely. And then we should start that off with that Contender Series we were talking about, because this was a great one. Perhaps, I mean, really, definitely, we talked about this, week one, always a little bit slow, starts picking up. But I would say that this was one of the best Contender Series that I have personally ever seen this week here. This was just a fantastic, set of fights from start to finish.
Yeah, sometimes a fight or a couple fights can save a whole episode because there's not that many going on. But this genuinely, I agree. This was one of the better episodes that we've ever seen. Even the ones that were like, we'll even talk about, but like it's something impressive was going on. So I like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. When you think it's going to start going in a weaker direction, it picks itself back up. It was really good that way. So starting off, Roman Puga versus Tanner Trembley started off with a war here. I mean, if you're watching us currently, you can see both of these fighters with the sunset on ESPN here. Red up top, yellow on the bottom. Lots of back and forths in this fight. Really competitive, but. Puga ended up getting the unanimous decision win, which was correct. But man, I mean, Tanner Trembley ends up getting a contract off of it as well. 2 contracts given out for this fight. Well deserved, I thought.
No, definitely well deserved. This was such a back and forth. Even when you thought it wasn't, because Puga, this guy is good. This guy was putting a beating on Tremblay, but he had his moments. Like the power was actually there for him. Like he was rocking Puga when he was landing it towards the end of the rounds. And this was the unfortunate thing that I think to Tremblay's, and I'm just being honest, Dana really didn't have the opportunity because Sean Shelby wanted him. He didn't have to make the word. Dana, I think that was all he need. All I needed to hear is that Dana really wasn't going to take him because Tremblay had the finish. And he went for a fucking grappling sequence and tried to choke him out, and then it didn't lead to anything. And then that was in like the second round, and then in the third round he almost finishes him again, and then they go to war at the whatever. Tanner Tremblay really could have won this fucking fight if he would have tried to put it on Puga in that second round, but this was truly never really out of reach for Tremblay either. So it was such a great fight to start. Holy shit, was that good?
Yeah, excellent. There was an opportunity for Tremblay there. I mean, look, it's the bright lights even at the Contender Series level, I would say, perhaps. So hopefully, maybe those are things that get shored up. But either way, I mean, being able to stay in this fight with Puga, who was so nice with his striking, man. I mean, this guy has some really nice hands.
This is the perfect example of what the Contender Series is about. It's not about the fights are great itself, but the promos can sometimes just hit the right way. So you have Tanner Trembley, who's living as the nickname of his father's grandfather, whatever, as like a longtime boxer or whatever it was. And then you have Puga, who lost his coach, unfortunately, and then he came back to the sport. So when I'm listening to these stories, I'm like, is Tanner Trembley in this? Like, is he like he showed that he's in this, of course. But before we watch the fight, it's like, is Tanner Trembley in this for him, or is he in this for the family? He's trying to lead a legacy of like fighters kind of deal. Roman Puga, on the other hand, I picked him going into it because he had his opportunity to step away from the sport. When his coach passed away, he stepped away and he said, I'm good, I'm done. But the passion he was driven back to the sport for a higher cause. I felt like the drive was just there on his end, and it felt like it showed out in the fight. Like, I feel like the stories really kind of played themselves out. You had Tanner Trembley really just getting an ass whipping, but he really just wanted to live up to that big powerful punch. And Puga just never fucking quit, man. That guy is just a dog. I love it.
Yeah, great. I'm happy that both these guys got it, honestly. I was a little surprised that Dana wasn't going to take Tremblay after that performance. Glad Sean Shelby stepped in and said his piece, but good deal there. Yeah, both getting a contract. Awesome. Then, of course, we had the Muhammad Ali back again, the dude who comes in with this crazy physique. I mean, this is a dude, certainly looks the part at light heavyweight, going in there against Alik Lorenz, who was also, I believe, a second-time performer on the Contender Series. And Lorenz comes out and just gets this big knockout. I mean, this Muhammad Ali, I feel terrible for this guy because it's like I guess he was 5-0 coming into the Contender Series, either that or 4-0. Maybe he had a fight in between there. But either way, fine record coming into the Contender Series and then just cannot win on the Contender Series.
What I think is crazy to note, just off rip, is that Muhammad Ali is built exactly like RoboCop, except he's actually a light heavyweight. Just keep that in mind for one later on in the show. But
True.
This fight, you can't blame anyone on this one. I got it right. I just took a shot, in the dark, because at the end of the day, you're watching the promos and you're like, okay, do I take the guy who got knocked out in the first 30 seconds of his last fight, or do I take the guy who got knocked out in the first 12 seconds of his last fight? Which one do I want to take here? And surprisingly, the guy who lasted longer in his last matchup, not much, but got it done. Alik Lorenz, I thought this was a fine performance. I really liked it. I mean, a lot of people wanted to point out that he's just a right hand merchant, and I'm not the one to say that I pointed it out. I don't actually notice it, but now that I think about it, he was winging them uppercuts, man. I don't know. Listen, mix it up next time. Maybe people won't spot things that I'm not necessarily keen on. I just wanted to point it out for you, Alik Lorenz. Just keep it in the mix, and hopefully you got some big things coming.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing is it's like, he kind of had a spam move he might have been doing, but Muhammad Ali, not a dude who was able to withstand it. So whatever, it worked, it certainly is the type of performance that will give you pause as to how they will perform in the organization, I would say. I mean, he did not look like, a world ender, but he did get the knockout. So, he gets his contract, he moves on. We'll see how he does in the organization.
You know what you should do, and this is just my task to you, thinker, and maybe and if you're not in on it, I understand how you feel about Twitter, but I think it is a good opportunity. Sometimes, I obviously know you're streaming, of course, but just when you're done streaming, take a look at some of the fighters who have massive upsets. If Muhammad Ali, go look at his name on Twitter. This dude was getting clowned on pretty bad for not attempting a grappling move. It was pretty bad. So
yeah, I mean, or any really, I mean, like it's amazing to me that he's been as successful. I know, granted, it's only the 5 wins, but still, I mean, 4 or 5 wins, he was obviously able to pull something out of the air. And when it comes to the fights that we've seen him in, it just does not seem like he has a basis in mixed martial arts. I mean, like he seems lost, and that's really not what you want to see from a Contender Series competitor,
Yeah, absolutely. So shout out Alik Lorenz, of course.
But yeah, no, I will take a look and see what they've been saying about him, because this is, again, 2 times that he's been in the same position for Muhammad Ali.
Well, not just him, of course, but like anybody who's like one of these guys that just instantly becomes one of those memes, because a lot of people are very harsh, of course, but you just got to get the lay of the land of like what people are saying, and like what the reputation that they're going to lead. Is this a guy that is going to have to battle through like, Jesus, you fucking suck, brother? Or is he going to be a guy who's uplifted by, and some people get supported, and you see a lot of support, like, he just got chinned. We'll talk about a fight later on. Like, some people just get cracked, and it it is just unfortunately I harsh reality sometimes when you see some of the clips of people on the regional scenes and you're like, well, betting on the dude who was fighting in backyards for the past 4 fights is probably not the best move. But sometimes it works out, and people can clown when it's somebody losing, but when they're winning they don't really say much about those instances, whatever you want to say.
Sure.
So
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, then moving on to this next one here, Logan Paxton versus Cristian Pérez. Are you? You've been pretty high and happy about Cristian Pérez getting this win. I mean, I'm not mad about it, but this was definitely the weakest of these great fights, I thought. Now, again, all of these fights ended up being very exciting in the end, but this was the one that kind of started off a little bit more of a slow roll. Round one, not the greatest barn burner.
let me say a couple things, of course, and I think I might talk a little too much. One, please tell me you see that he looks just like Delgado, right?
Oh well, yeah. I mean, he is Delgado Jr. And of course, we do know that now Jose Miguel Delgado is going to be in the main event of Noche UFC. So the protege here picking up the heels, he might end up getting himself a spot on that card.
Absolutely. No, I think he will. They even Dana even said at the
Dana,
end of
he
that,
said that
yeah,
he said he wanted to get him on there. So I mean, we'll see if that actually happens.
true. But a lot of things to say about Cristian Perez, and I think there's a couple things to know is that he's from the Goat Shed, so he does train down with Eileen and the Ninja Ferret in Argentina, in that team in that group.
And
But
Kuse, who we'll talk about.
they did not say that on the broadcast. They kept saying a different team, and I'm like, okay, did he relocate? Is he at the PI? But when you're watching UFC BJJ, it literally just says UFC PI. Like it doesn't have a name, I guess. I don't know. So I'm not sure where Cristian Perez is training currently because they didn't say the goat shed on the broadcast. I was waiting for it. I was like, no, it didn't happen. So Cristian Perez, on the other hand, the commentary, they were glazing so hard for him. I don't know if you caught this, but they were acting like he was the cleanest and slickest fighter that they've ever seen. And I'm here to disagree just because I want Cristian Perez to get better. I'm not trying to be your yes man. Dude, it was looking, dude, the striking, you were getting touched. The striking was, they were talking about this new stance that you had. Brother, you looked way off balance, like every time you were standing there. It was weird. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if it's just like a funky DDP kind of off rhythm thing, but it was looking concerning. But let me just say that Logan Paxton, the Wolverine, okay, sometimes a nickname can kind of listen. He came in here with the chipped teeth, and I was like, oh, dude, this dude might be about it. Like he's like kind of like hockey vibes. I don't know. Sometimes an opponent can have aura, and they can make you second guess just how good you believe you. Because Cristian Perez, if you remember back, he fought Manuel Sosa, and I'm a pretty big believer in Manuel Sosa, but like they're talking about that this dude had 2 close rounds off him, and I'm like, I don't know if I remember that, but maybe I'm wrong. So Cristian Perez, at the end of the day, lost, got TKO'd in the 3rd round by the Terminator of Brazil. Now he's going against Logan Paxton, and I'm like, how good is Cristian Perez? I like him because he's from the Goat Shed, and Ninja Ferret, that's my girl, and maybe he trained with her, and maybe she taught him a few things. But the thing is, I was worried for Cristian Perez in this. And the 1st round was looking a little rough. It was looking rough. 2nd round, listen, the pressure and the pace was great. I think Logan Paxton, I don't know. I feel like Cristian Perez, I still think this might have been a little too easy for you. I think you have more potential, and I'm just ready to see what you got because I think it was great. I think there's just still holes to fix. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean he does need to get pushed, and I thought that Paxton was bringing him a decent fight for a little bit of it. If I'm not mistaken, I think that Paxton just kind of got caught, right? I mean that's really what it ended up being, no, wasn't it?
It really, like, at a certain point, I think the durability just kind of gave out on him. Like it kind of felt like, I mean, really early in the 2nd round is what it looks like. I don't remember him getting caught or chinned. I think it was just like at a certain moment, Cristian Perez hit him with a shot, got him up against the cage, and just kind of hit him with a few more. At least if I remember correctly. But either way, I think it was just it was a great performance. It just still, I think, for a high for somebody who's going to be as high level as they're trying to like throw him into, he's going to be on Noche, probably fighting whoever. Like he's going to have to clean up pretty quick. That's all that I would like to say.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this was definitely the one that, even with the finish, felt a little bit questionable based on the fight. But I mean, I'm not mad. This is definitely not one I'm like, damn, I can't believe they gave him a contract. No, you got to knock out on the Contender Series, give him a contract. But I would be, I'm going to keep an eye on it just to be like, all right, I remember that this was one that wasn't, didn't set the show on fire kind of thing.
The one thing that I will say, two things. One is that his record, his finish record, TKO, 6 subs. It's like almost identical to Delgado, by the way. Either way. Uh, Cristian Pérez, I feel like when I see his frame and when I saw him against Logan Paxton, I was a little worried just because I think he might be a 45er. I don't know. He looks a little small. I feel like when I look at him, I'm like, we've seen lightweights, bro. Islam was a lightweight, guys. And Cristian Pérez, I know he's a young guy, but you got to assume
Yeah.
he's going to be able to match up to some of these people, and he just looks a little too skinny, and it doesn't seem like the wiry, strong kind, you know?
Now that you say that, I think that I remember thinking that in the moment as well, that he did seem a little undersized.
He's going to get at the PI. He's going to hit the gym. You know, he'll fill out the frame once he gets eaten a little more, of course. But I think there's, of course, a lot of guys from this region when they train with the right people, and sometimes they get the right rocket ship if they have the right level of experience. I mean, 15-2, that's pretty damn good. I mean, and the Contender Series loss was a very good learning experience. Like, I better conserve, or I better be ready to get my ass whooped, kind of deal, and not give up. But Cristian Pérez, I think the ceiling is very high for him.
Yeah, and hopefully he'll be able to achieve greater.
This will be a guy who develops knockout power late. This, like, because he has the volume and he has the pressure, and then once he starts developing a lot more strength and he starts settling into his like adult form kind of deal, the power is fine, but it's precision, it's the volume. He's gonna find those shots. I'm telling you, the TKOs will come.
Yeah, or either drop down to 45 and you can have it now. I
Yeah,
mean, that's the other option if he's, if he wants to make the cut. Depends on how he feels about cutting that weight, but it's there for him, I would think, with the frame that he has.
absolutely.
Excuse me. All right, next up is
Shout out
Doug.
CTE, man, and Sam. Now go ahead.
Of
Sorry.
course, yeah. Shout out to the homies. Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Next up is Douglas Rodriguez versus Trent Miller. This was the Von Flue finish on this one. That was a crazy one to see on the Contender Series, but a little bit of everything. We had a couple of really nice knockouts, a war to start it off, and a Von Flue choke finish. How do you think that went down, Chase? Feel good about that?
Um, This one was interesting. What I will note right now, because I know we won't get to it later, the Von Flue guy was at the UFC event, was he not, or something like that?
Oh, was he? I don't know. Did they say that on the broadcast?
They
Maybe I
showed him. He
missed.
was on the celebrity cam. I'm pretty sure they brought him in
Oh,
because this happened. They were like, we gotta put him on the
that's pretty
screen.
wild. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that that choke was developed by somebody who is around, and you know what I mean, just still hanging
Brother,
out.
when I saw him, I was like, this is the fucking guy? Like, what the fuck? Like, I would have thought it would have been some old school monk, like, like, I don't know.
Yeah,
But no,
no, absolutely.
it's just some guy who looks like me or you, that should just give you an insight that
I
everybody
believe he
out
was
there.
on. I think he was on Tough at one point, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, well,
The
look at that.
Yeah,
Chat, let us know how that is. Is Mr. Von Flue, was he at UFC and was he on Tough? But either way, yeah, I think they brought him in because this kind of happened. And this was interesting because this fight, sometimes you take Brazil. You live or die by the sword when you take Brazil. That's just how it goes, guys. Sometimes they will just fucking annihilate whoever is in front of them. Sometimes they will just look like shit sometimes. So this guy, Douglas Rodriguez, I actually think, the first round wasn't the best, but he at least won. And then the second round, Trent Miller gets a takedown. And, this fight really wasn't that good. Trent Miller really didn't seem like he was going to win. I didn't really love the performance so far. He did not look like, he kind of looked like Joe Pfeiffer without the movement. He was built very stocky, like, and just hunched over, but I didn't see that he was not going to get obliterated. If, if Marco Tulio, if what happens to him in the UFC is like the baseline for middleweights, brother, you have another. That dude is a skilled ate the fuck alive by Trayshawn Gore and fucking Christian Leroy Duncan or whatever the hell it was. Like, the crazy stuff. So Trent Miller, I appreciate you for getting the finish, because not only have I never seen this happen, I have never even understood how this works, or like who's even getting submitted at the end of the day when this shit happens. I'm like, is it the dude getting? I'm like, I don't even know what's happening because I've never seen it happen. Like, I've seen the clips and like I see him tap and then the clip ends and I'm like, so who the fuck won? But I genuinely saw how the choke works. And like, what is interesting about this, and I don't know if you caught this, the commentators, we have talked before, we've leaned away from this conversation, but we do need to bring it up once again. The commentators are a valuable resource in this sport. So before the choke was actually finished, he was laying in a position that he didn't get it. And then Paul Felder or Chiesa, whoever it was, he's like, no, but he actually has to get his shoulder right into his neck. And then you see bro like lean over and do it. It's like we're in the apex. Like they can hear them. It's like, yeah, I'm listening to Michael Chiesa right now. Like obviously I should go ahead and listen to the
Oh
guy
yeah,
who probably
that
is good at the choke, you know?
that reminds me of Greg Hardy back in the day when he was saying the exact same thing. I think it was during COVID actually when they were doing the events at the Apex for COVID. He was saying that he was listening to the commentary and using them as like secondary coaching.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely great. I think Trent Miller, wonderful finish. What a way to secure a contract because if he would have just got like an arm triangle, Dana probably wouldn't really have cared. He'd be like, "Ah, you were losing the fight, kid." You know, he was actually a big underdog. So let me actually take that back. Dana loves his big underdogs. When you come out here and you prove the world wrong, he loves it. But for the speaking point of a standard sub would not have hit the same hitting something that I've watched the sport religiously for 3 years across many different platforms. I ain't never seen nothing like this, you know, and it ain't the craziest choke, but it is high level to an extent to get somebody out with it. I mean, one, Douglas Rodriguez has to be stupid, but that's just how it goes, bro. Sometimes you get caught and sometimes you get put unconscious even when you were winning the fight, I thought. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that the interesting thing about the Von Flu is that like the person in because it's a guillotine defense type
Mhm.
of move, so it's like the person who is in the guillotine position has to be really, really committed to it, and so it's like because you're not going to be able to get them with the pressure, and the downward force from your position as the person putting the Von Flu on, unless that person is like, I am not letting go of this thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, Rodriguez, I appreciate the committing to the bit kind of element of it, but in the end, it bit you in the ass.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, this one was good. So I appreciate him for getting this a historic moment. First, was this the first Von Flu on Contender Series probably?
Yeah, I don't know if that is the case there, but yeah, it may be one of the few, I would say for sure, if not the first.
There
Either
you
way,
go.
though, this is another one that, like you were saying, Trent Miller was not necessarily inspiring great confidence before the choke. So it's like, will he be one of the people that goes farther in the organization? Again, one that we'll have to kind of keep our eyes on and see how he develops. But cool to see it happen. Trajectory remains to be seen.
A lot of people are speculating that Mr. Trent Miller might have been on some type of juice. We will see. He does have a build that would make you wonder, and his squeeze apparently is otherworldly. So, if he pops, is anybody gonna? What are you to say if we see another Contender Series person that gets the call up and they're like, I gotta take the call, even though if I'm gonna not pass the test, and then they come out here and finish somebody, now they have a contract over a person that was winning. Like it all goes back to Charles Johnson with Tamirov. So what do you have to say, Thinker? Not to throw that on Trent Miller, of course, but just to bring up the overarching topic about any fighter that has the possibility to come in here and being on something that we didn't pick up on until late.
It's just legal, brother. It's all just legal. I mean, I don't. What I think about it is, I hope. I mean, my hope is that the person that is on the wrong side of it gets another shot. If that is the case, now, of course, like we're saying, this is not. We don't know this to be true of this situation, but in this example, if Trent Miller was that person, then I would hope that Douglas Rodriguez gets another shot to come back and show what he's worth. I mean, that it really puts them in the bad position.
Okay, you've heard it here. Chat Thinker wants Freddie Vidal to get another chance.
I
One more
do.
chance.
Absolutely. Freddie Vidal all day long.
Yep, absolutely. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. It warms my heart.
Of course. Yes. No, absolutely. But yeah, but when it comes to the actual, juice and then get rewarded, I hate the game on that one, dude. I mean, like, I don't, it's just the nature of the beast at this point, and no one seems to care. So it just goes on.
Absolutely.
All right. Shout out to Good Vibes in the chat, by the way, brother. Appreciate you, man. Thank you
And
very much for
Tyler.
being here.
Tyler
And
Betts.
hell yeah. Gang's all here. Appreciate you guys.
Okay.
All right. And then, of course, our featured fight of this week of the Contender Series, this crazy set of circumstances going into this, but this is Namo Fazil versus Kaik Brito. This was a really decent fight here, but it's only part of the story, unfortunately. I mean, we don't need to go into all the details, but Namo Fazil, a dude who I guess is a bit of a loose cannon, a bit of a wild card kind of guy. Had beef with his opponent, so they were jawing at each other. There was all kinds of animosity between these two competitors. Then it also comes out that Namo Fazil got jumped by a gang of 12 Chechens before this fight. During his weigh-in, there was some kind of altercation, and Baisangur Susurkayev was named in that. So a lot going on there. Then more information about Namo came out after the fact. Our guy Robert Valentine posted a video of him getting into some trouble in Thailand. This guy seems to have a lot of like a negative aura around him, and he did end up getting knocked out in this fight. So all of that being said, Chase, make sense of all of that.
This fight was so good, Namo, I think it was just what a fighter like him. You always want somebody like this to get what they deserve, and sometimes in the sport, that is what a great fighter can become, is the opposite of that. They can overcome every time you want them to fail. They can they can prove you wrong. Namo Fazil, unfortunately, falls on the opposite end of this because Brito, listen, this guy, we talk about sometimes like Pantoja and or DDP who have the impression that they are tired, but they are not. I don't know if this dude is just really, really good at that, or if he genuinely was tired, because this was a performance where at the beginning of the second round, I said, the first round was great. Brito did great, a little back and forth, but at the beginning of the second round, as soon as it started, I said, damn, Brito is, dude, he's exhausted. Like, there's no way he's going to make it to the end of this. And what I think is key here, there's a couple key moments that tell the story. Brito, in my opinion, he would have just coasted and chilled, had a good little striking fight, had his opponent not been flipping him off, jerking off in his face, doing the whole song and dance, but telling him to screw off. Had Fazil just fought a normal fight, Brito would have just, cool, I'm chilling, I'm just doing my thing, I'm looking tired. But he poked the bull, and I mean, Fazil, I can't really tell you how great it felt when this happened. I mean, coming from a standpoint of two people in a household, when this happened, I mean, the house jumped, of course. Like, this was an insane moment. Like, this knockout not only was just a perfectly, listen, the difference was here, and we'll get to the actual knockout. Fazil was getting reckless in this fight. Brito was getting wild, though, and that was the key here. He was reckless, yes, but wild in the sense where anything was still possible. Fazil was reckless in the sense where he was willing to just let this dude punch him as hard as he fucking could. Like, it's crazy to think. And Kaiko was talking about this move. He's like, it's the shoulder move. You gotta throw him off, and then you throw the hook. I believe him, brother. He threw this from when at the beginning of the second round too. I was talking about how tired he was. That all of his shots, he's just hands down from his hips, but he's still got the power because he could just fucking sling it. Like, he's coming from such far distance. Like, the velocity is going to pick up. And at the third round, when this shot landed, he threw it straight from the gut, from heaven's gates. I don't even know how he did this. Threw it all the way across his chest. Hits Fazil so fucking hard, bro. The sweat that beads off this dude's head when he hits him, bro. It was absolutely insane. I mean, one shot did it after being into a 3-round, after 2 rounds of kind of a war. And this shot was just insane to have this power and this accuracy and just the X factor, bro. Some people just got this shit. A Brazilian live or die by the sword, bro. They will fuck your day up just randomly.
Yeah, no, this was a perfect example of what I say about wild striking in general. It's like, yeah, is it technically sound? Absolutely not. And both these guys were doing a lot of that. But, if you land one of those crazy shots, it can be effective. I mean, and that really was what ended up happening because they were doing that throughout the entirety of this fight. Both of these guys just swinging these crazy shots at each other. It was evenly matched in that regard. Like, the two guys who were just willing to just, throw whatever they could and however they could and try to make it work. They were definitely doing that. And then Kaik just does exactly, he loaded it up. He threw it like a football, this shot that ended up knocking him out. And it was picture perfect. It almost looked like a movie, the way that Namo ended up flailing backwards. He hit him and he kind of did the spin out like you'd see in an action movie or like a kung fu movie. Spun out, beads of sweat going everywhere. It's you can see like the photography flashes going off during this kind of a knockout. So it was definitely a picturesque way for this fight to finish, considering all of the factors going in, and then there was so much surrounding it otherwise. I felt bad for all the Kurdish people in the audience. There was a very large contingency of Kurdish people all cheering for Fazil, and it's unfortunate that this is the guy that was representing you based on all of the other stuff that we were just talking about. But either way, shout out to Kaik Brito for finding the finish throughout all of that. This was round 3 after 2 very tough rounds of fighting.
No, this was an awesome fight, and I think what is unfortunately the story here, the main thing the main takeaway, of course, Fazio at the end of round 2, he went right over to Dana. I don't know what he said. I'm sure it was, "I'm getting that contract, buddy. I'm doing your boy in. I'm finishing him in next round." Whatever he said, I can promise you, it did not come true. He got finished 12 seconds after he did that. So I really think just sometimes you can be arrogant and you can have it going into a fight, but bro, you better be able to back it up. Like, I mean, this is the unfortunate reality to some people. You know how many times Nate Diaz flipped people off, but he ain't get finished. He didn't die. So it looks cool. You tried to aura farm. You tried to be all this, and it just didn't work for you. I mean, this is a guy who humble pie really might serve well.
Yeah, God, I hope so, considering that this is also the same guy that was getting into it with Marab's team after the MVP card that he fought on. And then, again, with all of these other extracurricular, problems that he's creating for himself, it's really not a great look, especially if you're not winning your fights. So, I mean, you got to go in there and back it up. And like you said, I mean, maybe a little bit of humbleness can go a long way, but we'll see what ends up happening with him because, I think that I think it was Bleeding Edge in the watch long made a great point that because I think somebody else had said, "Oh, do you think Dana's just going to give him a contract anyway because he's an MVP guy?" And Bleeding Edge's point was, "Hell no. Dana would love to send him right back to MVP as our scraps, our cast off. Yeah, he wasn't good enough for the UFC, but y'all can have him." So if that ends up happening, I mean, he might be able to make a little bit of a name for himself in the new MVPFL or what, however that's all going to play out. He might end up being a decent standout for them. But either way, he does need to get his ego in check because I don't think it's going to be very good for him in the long run.
He could be the only Kurdish fighter in the UFC, though. Does that not sound appealing to Dana? I mean, it's a region of the world that he can't even represent on his promotion. So, what
I
do you
mean,
say?
just not when it's him is what I would say to that. I think that he's
Yeah.
caught, especially now with the whole thing with the Chechens, like, because Dana did comment on that. And I think, he was very tight lipped about it, but he did say, "Oh, we were aware there was a situation. We handled it off, behind the scenes, whatever, blah, blah, blah." So, it's not like he's not aware of what this guy brings as far as the surrounding elements. And I don't think that he's needing that unless this guy lived up to the expectations. If he was knocking people out, if you got a first round knockout, maybe you deal with that kind of shit. But we saw Muhammad Mukayev, who didn't have nearly the same amount of problems. He had problems with one guy, but not a whole gang of them. And we obviously know what happened to him. So I don't think that this guy is commanding that as far as getting into the UFC.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All
So
right, and
it
that
was a good
was week.
episode.
Yeah, that was week 2 of the Contender Series. Week 3 is coming up, of course. Bellamir making her first big step into the octagon. This is going to be very interesting for everybody, and we will be here watching that on Tuesday. So we will talk about that next week. But that brings us, of course, to the card of the hour, which it was UFC Fight Night, Hernandez versus Rodriguez. This took place at Golden One Center in Sacramento, California. Chase, going into this card, what did you think?
This one, I didn't really think that this was the worst card. I mean, some of the names were really good. We had some matchups that I thought were tailor made for me, of course. We had on my women's pound for pound list, we had number 4, Jalissa Chavs coming in against Charlie Giudice. We will talk about that later, but that was just one of the instances. We had Wes Schultz versus, a Jackson McVey. These are just things that were just made for me to see, and I obviously came to this card with high hopes, and I had a very decent time. So, what else would you like to say, Thinker?
Well, first, I would like to say it is wild that you have Jalisa Chavez as your number 4 on your pound for pound, but that's besides the point. No, I liked this card too. I thought that this was one. We look, we watch every single fight. You and I, we talk about every single fight that goes on in the UFC. So when we have fighters that are making, names for themselves over time, that are starting off and trying to build a repertoire of fights under their belt, it's to me at least, I find it very valuable to be watching this level of fights, learning the information. So for me, I thought this was a very solid card, and of course, main event, it was going to be a no lose for me as a fan because I like both of those guys. So I was very happy about the makeup of this card, and then as far as delivery, we'll talk it all through, of course.
Absolutely.
Well, let's start that off then with the first fight of the evening. Shanelle Dyer, she fought Elise Reed. I think Chase, this when I was watching this fight, it reminded me so much of our conversation about it because you said, and I think very rightly so, we need to see Shanelle Dyer get tested on the ground, or at least in some type of grappling, wrestling, anything that's going to be aside from striking. We know Shanelle Dyer is a world-class striker. She's a Muay Thai, a credentialed Muay Thai practitioner through the nose. She's got every accolade you could ever imagine. She's got belts and trophies and everything that you could possibly line a shelf with. But we don't know how she fares when she's in a different set of circumstances, a different type of pressure. Elise Reed brought none of that to this fight, so we still don't know.
No, I'm glad you were leading me into it, dude. I was sitting here thinking, like, bro, did I just not remember her getting taken down or something? Like, dude, you are tricking me over here. Yeah, none of that happened.
Nothing.
This was a great performance from Shanelle. I mean, not much to say. I think the real story, and this kind of upset me. So at the end of round 2, Elise Reed says, "I'm done. I want to quit." And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Damn! Like you're at this level. You cannot be the coach saying, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" Like, come, like she already said, bro. She said so. Like
Well,
I
see,
think she would know. Like,
okay, what happened in that circumstance? 'Cause I know exactly what you're talking about with this. The coach said, "Do you have anything left?" And she said, "No." And then he said, "Do you want to quit?" She said, "No," again to that. I think I hear you. I think as a coach, you probably should have maybe stepped in at that point,
because
especially
she was getting
considering
her ass whooped, bro. She didn't need to go back in there.
she's
She
getting
wasn't
her
gonna
ass
win.
whipped. She's getting whipped real bad. She had a cut that was bleeding profusely out of the side of her eye, so the optics were already terrible. She's also a fighter at this stage who was 8-5. She's taken a lot of losses already. She's telling you that she wants to quit. I think all of those go into the decision making at that point. So I think it would have been very appropriate to throw the towel in for this fight. But she at the end of the day, it is her decision. So I mean, like, if you want to supersede her as a coach, that you're going to have to deal with the fallout of that. We talked about Anthony Smith and how he feels about things like that. So that might be a conversation that happens behind the scenes later on, but in the moment, maybe stepping over that line would have been the right thing to do.
Yeah, this one was interesting, but I really just felt bad for Elise Reed because she did not need to go back in there for that third round. Sometimes it's like anything can happen, but if you can't even see the will in the fighter, like there's no fire there, like don't send them back. Don't send Miss Elise Reed, bro. She looks like a sweet lady. Like, come on, like. So she went in there, got her ass whooped again. No big deal, just for Shanelle Dyer to have her moment. Like I TKO people. I loved it. But like Elise Reed, we could have took the TKO retirement. Like it would have been okay. That would have. I'm not gonna lie, Elise Reed, and I'm not trying to do anything by saying this comment. If I went on your resume and I saw TKO retirement, I wouldn't. I'm not surprised. Like it would have been fine. You could have overcome that because I'm not expecting too much out of you. Like just continuing a next fight after that would have been awesome. You didn't need to prove. I mean, and I don't think she was proving anything. She told the coach, like, we go back to the ref. It's like, you give me the look and I'll be the guy to take the fall for it. It's like, I think the coach probably should have just been like, yeah, my fighter really just told me that she's done. Like, I don't. I'm pretty sure I heard her say, I'm done. Like, I want to quit. Like, I don't remember how she said it, but I remember thinking like, if that's the way she said it, that's like the code words kind of deal. It's like I can't see. It's like, well, damn, I don't want to fight. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you put her in that position to have to make the choice of yes or no, and as a
It,
fighter, not going to say no. So,
right.
but either
But she
way,
already said, I don't want to fight.
she
So you
already said she
asking
had
her.
nothing left. Yeah.
so on adding on top of it a question that she was already gonna be inclined to say no to after she came out of her zone to say, please end it, please help me, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
I
Well, I
don't know.
mean, the thing that bothered me though more than that was like, so the coach after that, after she says, "Oh, I'm going back in there," the coach fucking says, "Okay, well, you're gonna have to get a level change. Then you're gonna have to take her down." I was like, "Coach, that should have been something that was said to her in round 1 or 2." I mean, like, I don't
Should have been
understand
the
what.
game plan, brother.
That it should have been the entirety of the game plan. I mean, like, she should have come out the gate shooting for takedowns and never stopping doing that. Dyer was stronger, faster, and better at range. That's the entirety of everything. The striking numbers certainly speak to that. She was keeping her at bay with the teeps and the jabs. I mean, like, she really had a great command of the range in addition to those other things. This should have been something that was instrumental to the game plan from the jump, to be trying for these level changes, not something you tell her when she's already tapped out.
I think I think what's key, Shanelle Dyer is special. One, because she's very exciting. She's got very good personality on the mic. I think the accent really works for her. It works in her favor. I think it makes her a little unique. What is key about this fight, when you watch these two styles, these two girls, they bounce light on the they're just like lightly bouncing around. Shanelle Dyer could have been another basic average copy paste striker that goes in there and they do this little taekwondo sparring matchup. We didn't get that. She went in here out for blood, and she is shaping out to actually listen. The thing that happened with Carol Foro, put it in the back of your mind. It's just a little side path. It's not canon. This is the real story right here. She came in here, she obliterated fucking Miss Oliveira, and then she gave a worse beating as the competition went up in theory. So I think it's good.
I
Oliveira
mean,
to
well, no, you're yes. I mean, but that's we're talking, ground level bar
yes.
versus a minor jump up. But that brings me to my point about this, though. This is them building Shanelle Dyer as the English fighter. We need another English woman now. Molly McCann is out of the picture, so they want an English striker here. This is I posted this on Instagram, and I thoroughly, firmly believe this. The first time that you see Shanelle Dyer, especially after what you were talking about in her post, oh, no one wants to see, BJJ and UFC BJJ. They want to see knockouts. I am knockouts. The first second that she has a grappler in front of her, she is going to get taken down and probably submitted. So just be aware of that. There's only so far that you can build her off of pure striking alone in women's MMA, where there are tons and tons of grapplers.
We said that about Natalia Silva, and she never ended up getting taken down. I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
the same style, but some people are the new meta, the new era of athletes. Like, they just do stuff that you would never expect a striker to be able to do or a wrestler to be able to do. Like, they have certain niche skills that they've acquired through a lot of different training with different athletes, And Shanelle Dyer, having the Muay Thai base, I mean, she's clearly she's athletically ready to be here. She thuds with her strikes. She mixes in a lot of different stuff. She mixes in a variety of strikes, legs, the body, the headshots, the elbows, knees. She's very well equipped on offense. I think, because for the longest time, think about what we were saying about Carlos Prates and Michael Morales. It's like, well, what happens if they get taken down? It's like, well, they just never ended up getting taken down, And then when they did, like JDM against Carlos Prates, yeah, he just got up and then he just TKOs him. It's like sometimes people, they just get better as time goes on, and we're seeing that evolution here, I think.
Well, and that, if that is the case, I will accept that once I have seen her overcome the obstacles to make that the case. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
when I see her up against a pure grappler, if she's able to do all of that, then this conversation changes a little bit. But I have to see it first. I was hoping it was going to be Elise Reed to at least give us some more indication of that, but we did not see it in this fight. So we'll have to see what the matchmaking looks like and how long they're going to try to set her up this way. But if she does end up against a grappler, I'm certainly still going to be very keenly paying attention to how she handles all of that type of situation.
Now, I'm not sure how the weights work out because I believe she dropped a weight, so I don't know where she lies. But if it were me, UFC, if you're listening, because I pick out these women's matchups like no other. Nicole Cagliari, Shanelle Dyer. Lock it in right now. That's your grappler versus your striker. And Nicole Cagliari brings it on the feet. So this is going to be a war for your first fight of whatever fucking card you want to throw them on. Are we
I
ever
like
going
it.
back to Brazil? Can we ever send people to Brazil anymore? Like, how about we get Nicole Cagliari in Brazil. Shanelle travels across the world. I love it. Book it. Blockbuster right there.
Yeah, sounds good to me. I mean, literally anybody that's going to give her that kind of test, just to be sure that this is like, she's actually fully well-rounded enough to be able to do that. So if that's what it is, I'm fine with that, and then afterwards be a mosquito. Yeah, I don't think it's the right weight, but still.
No, it is not. But absolutely, I like the idea. I mean, we got to jump her right into the mix. She's an English fighter. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, you want to have somebody that the English can actually root for and be confident in rooting for. That's how you do that.
Because the heavyweight champ is not somebody you could do that for, Thinker. Come on, geez. You can't imply these things.
He's got to come back first.
Okay, all
And he's
right.
also not a woman either. This is the women over here. This is the ladies.
Gotcha. My apologies. Shout out to Tom Aspinall. You are not a lady.
Exactly. Yes, we confirmed. Tom Aspinall, not a woman. But
Dude
people,
looks like a
I
lady,
was
but
to
he's
say,
not.
people who have hair like ladies in the next fight, perhaps. But no, I mean, I think men can have long hair too. It's 2026. Wes Schultz has long hair. Jackson McVey also has long hair. They fought each other. Chase, this was a fight specifically designed for you. Did it live up to your expectations?
It really did. Because I want you guys to go back long ago. There was a fight where Wes Schultz was on the Contender Series against a 19-year-old Albanian. And this fight, I was specifically talking about how bad Wes Schultz is because previously he was on the Contender Series against Damian Pinas and he got knocked out. And I was watching him throw goofy spin kicks and lackluster attempts at shots. And I'm like, what am I seeing here? This is the worst fighter I've ever seen. Like, no way is he getting into the UFC. So then you go one fight later to the Albanian, and he gets the Suliev stretch. And I said, oh my God, this dude might actually be something better than I thought. Now, here we are. We have the party time. He gets a submission and his UFC victory. And I'm like, okay, I'm buying into the grapple genius of Wes Schultz. We almost had him. In the first round, we almost had him. And Jackson McVey, I really appreciate you for being so much better than just getting submitted in the first round again, brother. Thank you for being not just a shit fighter. Because Wes Schultz, he thankfully cut out the spinning bullshit of his regimen, but that left him with nothing on the feet. I don't know what he was doing in this fight. This dude was just like laboring around, just like oof, he was just like fucking around. This was this was a doofus performance from Wes Schultz. I mean, I don't know what was going on from a guy rooting for him. I'm like, what? Like, it's like the joke. He's like, he's got him right where he wants him. Now he's gonna do it. No, he never did. After that submission attempt, Wes Schultz had nothing. Jackson McVey, very good setup for the knee. I don't think Wes Schultz ever expected him to go for the kill shot. To be fair, what I will say, Jackson McVey in this fight, this was a very methodical performance from McVey. He didn't run through and try to just smash Wes Schultz. He stood on the outside, he stood strikes, and he picked his shot, and the one shot ended it, dead shot. I think there's a little evolution here. I think this is actually rounding out. I mean, when you look at his size, he's got a massive frame for middleweight. He's tall, he's long, he's skinny, but some of these guys have that wire strength that he might just be able to do something that's very, very nice going forward. But Wes Schultz, when I saw him in the stand-up, and he looked even worse than what I originally said was the worst guy that I have ever seen, I have to just say that hats off to you, Thinker. You picked the better white guy with long hair on that day. So what would you like to say now?
Well, I mean, look, we talk about the submission attempt, and I thought that it was a great one in the moment. Going back and rewatching it, I was like, how did he not finish that mounted guillotine? I mean, he had it, it looked like to me. I mean, I thought he had it secured. The commentary said it was under the chin. You can never go off of that. They always think it's under the chin, but it looked like it to me, and it didn't really click to me where McVey actually, like, what he did to get out of it, aside from adjusting his body. But if Schultz was really on it, then he probably could have just stayed with the adjustment. So whatever the case may be there, it was certainly a good attempt. I don't know why I don't know why Schultz didn't go back to that well, because like you were saying, the striking is, I mean, it
doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, bro.
It's just not there, is what I had in the notes. I was like, he chose to keep it on the feet after the initial takedown. He should have just gone directly back to the well. And also, like, exactly as you were saying, McVey, very calm, very consistent in the output, but never rushing in a great way, because he didn't have to. What was it? Where was the rush? I mean, with the nonsense that's coming back at you, as long as you can move your head in a very rudimentary way, you're going to be able to get around half of what Schultz was trying to put out. So I mean, it was, keep touching up top. You talk about, having him right where he wanted him. I mean, you were talking about it in Schultz's way, but McVey really was the one doing that. He kept touching up top. Schultz didn't see the knee coming. I mean, it was really kind of like, all right, I'm going to keep it consistent up here. This is all you're thinking about, and then land that really nice, well placed knee. And Schultz is a little soft in the belly, too much bread in the basket, and I love a body shot TKO. So thank you very much, Jackson McVey.
I would like to say that it wasn't just a knee to the body. I mean, that was right to the middle of the chest. We just saw that with what's her face a couple weeks ago. She got kicked right in the little sternum or whatever right there. It the solar plexus. This probably fucking hurt. This probably fucking hurt. But at the end of the day, Wes was just throwing shots out there where he's so unorthodox is part of the issue, and he was lazy. So he's throwing all these shots with his body just like wide open for shots, and then just a knee just obliterates him. I mean, I'm not surprised. And when it happened, maybe his idea was I could take the knee and then we go grapple again. I think I'm with I don't know. I think it just didn't work out for him. The ref didn't get it. I don't know. Had the over.
Yeah, I mean, he really, like, it didn't seem like he was really thinking about the takedown again after the first one, and I don't get that based on what the dynamics were after they got back to the feet. I mean, like, McVey was not giving him any indication that he was going to get reckless or get like. If you're looking for openings and you don't see openings, then you either have to create the openings or be confident in the striking. It didn't seem like either of those things were happening. So I don't know if there was even any game planning, but he is party time Wes Schultz. So maybe it's just, I'm just going to figure it out on the fly. Well, sometimes the fly bites back,
Literally, yeah. So
Yeah.
this was a fun one. I'm happy for Jackson McVey for sure. The moose
I
got
am
it done.
too. Yeah, yeah. And he does the little one of those with the antlers up top, which I thought was fun.
I actually liked him more when he did the Iceman tribute. Just go back to that one. Don't do the
True.
moose thing.
Fair enough. But I'm okay with the moose. I think it's fun. It makes me laugh. But this fight here next up was one I was very happy about, and even more so on rewatch. This is Gage Young versus Stan Dorsainvil, the drill, coming in on short notice. Now, he, of course, was training for a fight in LFA at the time, so it's not like he was just stepping straight off of the couch, but big step up in competition with Gage Young, who actually really impressed me in this fight. This was my fight of the night right here.
This was a really good fight. I think what's crazy is how good of a first round that Gage Young had. This was I was glazing the shit out of this dude on this fight. I was because I knew Thinker was liking Stan Dorsainvil, so I was like, all right, I gotta make sure my boy Gage is he's got to show out. So it was going to be a 10-7 no matter what. But no, it was a very close first round. But I think Gage Young won the first round. I think the second and third were also very, very close. I thought Gage Young definitely started to it wasn't necessarily gassing, but I think the confidence that Stan wasn't going anywhere. I think it was starting to get to Gage Young, and he was just a little slower to make decisions, and he was double thinking, overthinking, whatever you want to say. And I don't necessarily think the right call was made on the judges, but I think Stan Dorsainvil, I mean, this motherfucker is crazy. He took every fucking shot, smiled, gave them back, and in the moment, I'm going to say, and I still believe this, he did not need to do all the extra shit in between the rounds, shoving, flipping, bro.
But both sides on that, they were both kind of a little bit extra.
Gage he started it, bro. Don't do that. Anyway,
Gage started it.
no,
Gage was the first one that pushed.
no, because Stan was in his face, bro. He was saying shit anyway.
Oh my God.
So yeah, there was some shoving, some flipping off, some words said. Stan Dorsainvil, in his words, we just fighting. And I agree. Some people have that. That is their style. That's how they get down. And Gage didn't necessarily seem like shook by. He probably was bringing a little more oomph to it. Same thing with Fazil. You bring a little oomph to the fight, your opponent might bring a little more or something like that. So this was a great performance from both of them. I think it's very telling when you are the guy and you're hearing the scorecards read off and you don't think any of them are you.
Oh yeah.
But he'll learn that with experience. You gotta look like you're a winner no matter what.
Oh, for
So
sure. No, I agree. And look, I also did not think that Stan won this fight in the moment. Upon rewatch, I think that that third round becomes a little bit more clear because it's like if you're watching it in sequence point by point, I can definitely see why me and I think a number of the people in the chat thought that he did not win that round. But again, on the rewatch, it became a little bit more clear. But even with the rewatch, I do have to say third round insanely close. And this was 1-1 going into that third round. So, I mean, really, this was a very close fight all the way through for a lot of it. I mean, Stan gets staggered in round one. Gage took that round pretty handily, I'd say. And then also Stan was looking a little bit sloppy at the end of round one. I was concerned about his gas tank, but I think he just kind of has a little bit of that sort of like kind of sluggish style, but he's like a slugger. It's a sluggish but slugger style. So like, I mean, it somehow worked for him. And then he came out in round two really almost like a different fighter. I thought that he made some great adjustments, throughout the entirety of that round that really were swinging the momentum towards him. So, this ends up being a lot more competitive than it might have seemed like it was going to be in that first round. 1-1 going into that third, both of them tanking huge shots. I mean, really like a lot of power coming from both sides. That's why I said Gage Young really impressed me in this fight with his level of power and what he was bringing to this fight, because he's somebody that I was never super high on. So, I was like seeing new things out of him. I was like, okay, man, I think I got to give him a little bit more credit than I might have been before. And I also said, I didn't like Stan and all of the stuff that we talked about, the extracurriculars. I think, leave that shit outside. I also, Stan, I did think it was funny, even though I didn't appreciate it, him emoting at the camera when they were in the clinch the first time. They get into the clinch. It's like the first clinch of the fight. And he turns to the camera. He's like, you believe this? It's like,
yeah,
don't look at that. Look at the fight. Go back to the fight, brother.
he definitely broke the fourth wall, and I appreciate that. Not many people can get away with it, but him doing that was pretty. For him to win the fight, of course. Maybe they saw the moment going viral and they pulled the trigger on this one. I don't know, but either way, great performance from Stan. Gage Young, thankfully, listen, I don't necessarily say that I have too much stock. Like when it comes to my favorite fighters, Gage Young, he's somewhere amongst there, but I don't necessarily ride or die for this guy. But guys, he does keep impressing. Like, you guys got to believe that Gage Young is a good prospect. Like, he really does have a lot of skills, and he gets to utilize a lot of them in his fights because, one, he's able to take the fight wherever he wants to go, but normally it is standing. And then when people don't want to stand with him and they try to take the fight where they want to go, he's able to actually combat those things. Like, he's a very well-rounded lightweight. I think it's not now, of course, because guys, once again, Islam Makhachev was a lightweight not too long ago. Gage Young is far from being at that level, but I think he's very young. I think he is. He's with a good team. I'm pretty sure he's with Anthony Smith, by the way. I'm pretty sure that's his team.
That sounds about right.
So we'll have to see how it goes for him. But I'm still very high on Gage Young. Listen. You lose to the undefeated prospect in a close fight. You just gotta assume that the business knows best. They're gonna do what they gotta do. So,
well, I mean, they went to split decision, Cam. I mean, the production team obviously thought it was pretty goddamn close too. I mean, I think everybody did. I don't think anybody really thought that this was a one-sided fight in any respect. I mean, it was very close. As I said, I thought that Gage won in the moment. I thought he took that third round. After rewatch, I can see why, because it did end up being a unanimous decision, which I thought was very surprising. So, I mean, yeah, this was a very good test for both of these guys at the level that they are at. I was very happy to see that Stan got the win here. And Gage Young, I felt very happy to hear him say, after all of the nonsense going on, he said himself, if you listen closely, he's like, you belong, Stan. And I was like, I appreciate him saying that, because it is true. I do think that Stan really proved that he is of the caliber of the UFC. Now, it's only going to get tougher from here. So for both of their sake, I hope that they both learn from this fight.
yeah, absolutely. And this is just a guy who works at Home Depot, everybody. Think about that, and hopefully he gets to take extended time off, whether he wants to or not. He's going to have to train. I mean, he's a professional athlete at the highest level of the sport, brother. Get off the lumberyard. We need you in the cage. Like, we need you training. So that's just how it's going to have to be, bro.
Absolutely. Hopefully, this will be the thing that can allow him to make that transition. But he said it himself. This is for all of the underdogs and all the people who didn't think they can do it. I mean, I thought it was a nice message as well. So shout out to Stan Dorsainvil, doing Florida proud with this performance.
Hell yeah. Shout out Haiti.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that brings us to our next fight. Speaking of the goat shed you were talking about earlier, Marcio Barbosa fought Ryan Kuse, who is out of the goat shed. We I don't think we talked about this on the last episode, but yeah, Ryan Kuse is a dude who I had seen not too long ago. He fought in Karate Combat just recently. I think he got a win there, if I'm not mistaken. I remembered him because he's got the big Florida tattoo on his shoulder, which I appreciate. I do like the tattoo, but there really was not much being shown from him in this fight.
And this may make sense. Ryan Kuse, it does not have a team listed on ESPN. I am not familiar with him being a part of Goat Shed, but when they were talking in the fight, they were talking about how he has done bare knuckle fights, right? That is Ryan Kuse that they were talking about,
Hmm.
and that he has also been in Karate Combat. If he was
Yep.
in Karate Combat, that would be the Goat Shed kind of correlation right there with
Right.
Eileen and all that. So sure, um, this was a very hard matchup to get in your debut. I mean, they heard bare knuckle and they said, "Oh, okay, you can take a punch. I got you. Let me give you the strongest guy that's ever lived in Brazil." Like so. This Marcio Barbosa, I know maybe it's not even that crazy to say anymore because Ilya was once something, and now we have a tarnished image. So saying Barbosa is like, oh, he's kind of like the Brazilian Ilya. He's got that. He's just walked you down. He just unloads. Not even that crazy to say because Ilya, who knows what he's going to be at this point? He could be some jobber tomorrow. But either way, Barbosa, he does have that stalking presence. He just walks you down and he'll unload big bombs. And I thought this was a very clean performance. I mean, it took a little longer. Like when you're watching it and rewatch, it's like you're waiting for this shot. It's like, all right, he could have just done this in 20 seconds. Like,
But I don't think so, though, because that was my first note here is that Kus was decently active at the start of this fight. I was actually liking the movement from him. It just wasn't paired with a lot of actual output. It was a lot of pressure from Barbosa, basically just kind of
shot a
hunting him
couple
down.
takedowns,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, he was moving a little bit, and Barbosa seemed a little bit hesitant to let his hands go at first. I thought I was like, and granted, look, it's a fight. He's tracking him. He doesn't want to get caught himself. I understand all of that. Kus, of course, shooting the takedowns. Didn't really go too far with those. I didn't mind that because it was still work. It was output on his side compared to mostly defense for Barbosa, who hadn't opened up at that point. But then, of course, it turns out that Barbosa doesn't need a ton of offense because he just pressures on him and cracks him on the forehead. And then, I mean, Kus was basically out, not on his feet, but just out with his eyes open, which was kind of scary.
That was interesting too, and I'm really happy of how this actually played out because in the moment when you are a spectator watching, you see a guy get punched, really not even that flush of something. You're like,
Like right,
well,
right there on
yeah,
the top of his head.
yeah, definitely grazed off too. And it's like you're watching and just like, get up. It's like, why isn't he getting up? It's like, oh, he didn't want to fight. Like, oh, he quit. Like, but when you watch the replay, and I'm glad Dom pointed it out because I really wouldn't have noticed. He's like, yeah, he's not even there. Like, he's just looking ahead. It's like, dude, that dude, he was like locked in like fear mode, like just
Yeah, he was
looking
like
straight off.
stun locked.
It
That's how
was
I
it,
described it.
yeah, it was pretty scary. But like, thankfully, Mauricio Barbosa just stood over him like a menace. Like, I could do it, but I don't because the referee waited like 7 seconds and I had to do his job for him. So
No, I honestly I thought that this was actually really good refereeing here because what you saw, if you saw the way that this all played out, he's on the ground. Referee is right there. I think this was Herzog, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong about that, but the
mhm.
referee is right there, and the referee is calling to him. He's saying, "You got to get up. You got to fight back. You got to do something." Barbosa comes in for the strike, and then before he actually lands the strike, he calls it, says, "No, this guy's not. He's not moving. He's not doing anything." So actually, I thought that this worked out about as good as it could because you do. I mean, look, if he had immediately started to scramble and started to get up, then it'd be like, oh, come on, ref. He had his eyes open. How could you do that? But it's like, no, he gave him the exact amount of time to do. If he was going to do anything, that's exactly the amount of time you give him to do it. He was not going to. And like I said, it's a scary situation with that because, like you said, Chase. I mean, from the outside observer, it looks like a guy looking, kind of in the distance, but just looking up. It looks like a guy who's there, but you can clearly tell if you're looking like, that's a 1,000-yard stare. That's not an actual conscious person at that point. And the body does odd and unusual things when you're in that dazed state. I mean, he probably was seeing all white.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he don't remember that. Don't worry.
Oh yeah. No, he's probably just. I mean, I think that they put him onto the stool after that. Like he wasn't there for the
Mm.
announcement, if I'm not mistaken. So
This Marcio Barbosa dude he's a pretty scary opponent. I mean, not necessarily that he's proven that he's like the scariest dude ever, but like just knowing that you're going against an opponent whose idea is to just knock you out. I mean, you have to be a real fighter to just step in here and be willing to take that. That's a risk that you have to be willing to take when you take a fight like this. And 19-2, he's got some good experience, guys. I mean, this is an interesting one to throw in the mix at featherweight when Volk's on his way out, kind of deal. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Diego Lopez, his chin can't last forever, guys. So we'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say is I'd like to see him, maybe get to it just a little bit quicker. Not that I mean, look, it was round one, so I mean, this is not like he took forever, but I mean, just for me, like the way that I like fights to go, I'd like to see him maybe going after it just a little bit quicker. But he did have a moving target, very active on his feet opponent in this case, so maybe it's not the worst thing in the world that he was a little bit, a little bit not cautious, but just savvy, I guess.
I'm really glad that you said that right at the end of this fight because I'm really glad that we get to go into this next fight with the notion that you like fighters that go get it, they go after it. They go from the jump, they
Uh,
are 1 million to the fucking pedal. I want to talk about this next one. Come on now.
Okay, let's do it then. Yeah, hating ass hater Chase Parton. The next fight up here is Chris Padilla versus Nasrat Haqparast. Now, before you start going down this line of discussion
Okay.
that I know you're going to, I did say, well, for two things I want to say. Number one, Padilla is a new candidate for worst tattoo in the UFC with the Frankenstein net tattoo. That just has to be
Dude, you
acknowledged
come
off
out with a
top.
new tattoo, you better have a fucking stellar performance if it looks stupid, brother. So
That is, I mean, I am a big fan of Chris Padilla, but that is one of the worst that I have seen. And what I said on the watch along too, does that not imply that your head has been taken off at some point if it has to be stitched back to your shoulders?
I thought it was barbed wire when I was looking from a distance. I was like, who's got the
Yeah.
barbed wire neck? And then I looked at it, I was like, oh, it's stapled back on. Ooh, Halloween's around the corner, brother. Like,
Bro, it's like a temporary Halloween tattoo for real. Yeah, no. So anyway, that's a little side note. Now, the other note, the more main point here is that I acknowledge that this was a slow fight through 2 rounds. I saw that Padilla was Muay Thai style. It was a lot of distance management. He was on it actually kind of switched in round one. He was on the back foot a lot, and I acknowledge that for sure. In the second round, he was actually pressuring, but it still was not an amazing amount of output. So really, I think what you saw here is Padilla waiting for counters and Nasrat not being able to make the reads on the distance or the timing. And Nasrat Haqparast is really like a pressure volume striker most of the time. So I think that he needs to be able to like find his footing in the pocket to make that work for him. And that's the problem that he was running into, is that Padilla was not giving him the fight that would allow that. So what that ended up being is kind of a neutralization of both styles through 2 rounds. So I fully acknowledge that this was not a great fight until it turned into one.
yeah, I don't even think it ever did turn into one. I don't know if I have too much to say other than this fight really. Listen, they're talking about Chris Padilla. You remember his last fight? He went to decision. They said he win. He goes out. They say he draw. Whatever. You go into your next performance. How would you think you would perform if the judges just absolutely screwed you over and the commissions did nothing about it? Oh, you would have close rounds every round, bro. Okay, nice. You would just do nothing. Oh, you would just stand there idle most of the fight. Like I, Chris Padilla, if he could do what he did in the last 8 seconds, a minute earlier, 2 minutes earlier, a round earlier, anything earlier, I would understand. Like he's on a 6 fight win streak, bro. And I'm just letting you know, there was plenty of time throughout the card for ad breaks and commercial breaks and desk time and pausing and waiting for cards to start because we have so many finishes. They did not give Chris Padilla mic time because they knew exactly what he was going to do. He's going to go up there talk about how he's a fucking killer. I'm a fucking beast. You don't want to see me. I got the Jason mask on. You see my bro? No, we did not want to fucking hear that, and we were not going to. And they knew exactly what we did not want to hear. That's why he did not get the mic time. Is because you cannot have a performance like this where you attempt to do something with the last 8 seconds of the fight, bro. Like it's you have submission skills, really. I've never seen you once attempt a submission until now. Like it really, like, he can win. It's great. It was a good finish, bro. You are so unpleasant to watch. You are there, like you are not going to be on big cards anymore. This is the performance that I think that we've realized. I
Oh
mean,
my God.
listen, what's his name? Marco Daniel Marcos, bro. He was on a win streak too. Like I don't know what to tell you though. Like this dude
It's-
is just not fun to watch. And I watch a lot of the UFC. I think some of the women put on fucking great fucking performances. This shit, bro, go back, just go. You spent like 6 hours in the tattoo chair that could have been done working on a different game plan. Think about that. Like that's what this shit comes
But
down to.
I think that you're not understanding that this was the game plan. This
To
exactly what he
suck?
did. Now, see, he didn't suck. So this is the thing. I thought it was 1-1 going into the third. I mean, two to tango here, brother. I mean, Nasrat
No, it was
Haqparast.
bad. It was bad from both. But I would just like to also note the thing that kills my argument here that sucks is that the judges all gave Chris Padilla both rounds. So that's that.
That is surprising to me. I mean, I thought that Nasrat won round one personally. I mean, Padilla on the back foot intentionally for a lot of that round. But I mean, what I said about this is that Nasrat landed some decent shots with, like I said, Padilla on the back foot intentionally. But once Padilla started moving forward, I thought there was some decent Muay Thai on display here, brother. I mean, I feel like you're hating a little bit overboard on it. There were oblique kicks, that were pretty good, that were keeping the distance the same way that he wanted it to. I thought he had some decent activity in that second round, actual pressure in that round. He got his legs engaged a little bit more, some kicks going and stuff. So 1-1 going into the third. And then the finishing sequence I thought was pretty goddamn awesome. I mean, like, now granted, it was late in the fight. So yes, you did have to sit through an entire long fight that was not that great. It was not the greatest fight, but then at least you got something fresh at the end. And we're just talking about the Contender Series guys that were having similar fights, even if they got to it a little bit quicker. But here, you ended up getting a drop and then a standing arm triangle that turned into a drop triangle, and then a submission where he was so out that he couldn't stand up, and again, a 4-minute, 59-second submission victory here. I thought that this was fine. I think that you're being overly harsh because you hate my taco pad.
Your argument of this being a masterclass display of Muay Thai, it falls out the window when you watched Shanelle Dyer like 4 fights ago just obliterate her opponent with Muay Thai. If he could have obliterated Nasrat, I would have loved to see it. But 8 seconds left and he gets and it's a great finish. I would have just not liked to have hated my life up until again, it comes down to the point. If you were somebody who was a fan of Chris Padilla and you just watched him get screwed over by the judges, and this is how he fought for the entirety of the fight,
That,
got
that
you on
doesn't
the edge
mean
of
that
the
you're going to
seat.
come out and be reckless, though. I mean, like,
It's
now,
not
granted,
about being reckless. It's bro, it's about making it very clear and concise that you are the victorious guy in the fight. Like it was very close each round. Even you said it was 1-1. The judges didn't see that. I personally, 1-1, sure, great. But bro, neither of them were doing anything to make the judges think that they were going to win this fight. Like that was the problem altogether. Chris Padilla is at fault. He's on a fucking win streak, bro. Against the guy who got slept unconscious a year ago. You are on a 5-fight win streak. You need to be the one who wins the fucking fight emphatically. Bro, you did, but I didn't need to wait all fucking day for it, bro. And as a business person, as Dana White looking at the assets, it's like, all right, we have 2 white guys with long hair who finish the fight in 30 seconds, or the guy who fucking makes the audience go get nachos. I don't know what's gonna fucking play here. So I don't know, guys. It's frustrating. Like, why would I hate Chris Padilla, guys? Like, that's the thing too. Is like, why would I hate him? Why would I just have an overarching feeling about a guy who's on a win streak if it wasn't something that I just picked up on? Like, I see it, and it's not the same as other people on win streaks. Like this dude just fucking sits there, wait. Like it's frustrating to watch this as a dude who wanted great. Like, bro, this could have been a really good fight, I thought, but whatever.
No, I mean, I certainly agree that through those first 2 rounds, it was a bit of a slog. It definitely was. Now, again, this is a two-sided fight, so I would have liked to see activity out of both of these guys. Now, like you're saying, I mean, you're talking about Padilla, with the robbery or whatever. Nasrat Haqparast needs to come back from the head kick. I mean, that head kick propelled Quill and Salkill to now be fucking top 5. I mean, he's got a ground to make up himself here.
But
so
I
would
think
like both of them to do that.
the comeback was different here. Chris Padilla, you're going against a dude who just got slept unconscious. Like you have nothing. You are supposed to just walk through him. In theory, that's how it's supposed to go down. Nasrat, for him to come back from the head kick, he just has to make it to the bell. Let me just not get knocked unconscious. Like that's my whole goal coming into this. Unfortunately, that's not how it fucking worked for him. He's got a whole different unlucky path in the UFC. But the thing is like Chris Padilla was supposed. Bro, I stress this again. Jocelyn Edwards was on a fucking finish. Like, she's still on a win streak right now with a bunch of finishes within. None of them are like this. You know, like
Well,
Josh
no,
Van has a bunch of finishes on his win streak. None of them are like this, you know?
I mean, comparing it to the women, the women don't have a male striker on the other side that they have to worry about defending against and all of that. But either way, I mean, yes, it could have come a little bit quicker, but it came nonetheless. Taco Pad gets the job done at the end of the day in pretty emphatic fashion. Had him gurgling on the ground, after the horn had sounded.
Mhm.
And I mean, I was pretty happy with that part of it. Again, I would have liked a little bit more activity through the first, 2 minutes or the first two rounds, and then fucking 4 minutes of the third. But either which way, it ends up being a really, at the end of the day, a highlight for Padilla. I mean, the sequence was pretty nice. So had that happened in the middle of the fight, maybe it would have been nicer for you, Chase. But at the end of the day, as a fan, I'm very happy that Chris Padilla got a decisive victory here. And hopefully he does pick up the excitement factor, because I acknowledge that. I do acknowledge what you're saying here. It goes back to our good friend CTE, who always says, I prefer to have entertainment in my entertainment. And I'm like, I understand. I get that. So pick up the pace, I guess, is all I would say to this, but still happy about the way it played out.
Because, bro, it was a great choke. It was a great finish. If at any point you could have just done that sooner, like, people would probably be a pretty big fan. But the fact they turned the fucking TV off by the time they got to this shit, like, I don't, as a spectator, if I'm not enjoying the first two rounds, like, that's fine. But if I don't enjoy 14 minutes and 30 seconds of the third round, I don't care what the fucking finish does for me at the end. Like, the whole fight was just not my cup of tea. Let me say that. If, I see the chat, if you guys loved it, by all means, buy out all the copies of the Chris Padilla fight collections, and I will leave them for you. So
There you go. Exactly. More for the rest of us, I suppose.
yes.
But either way, solid win for Padilla at the end of the day, even if it took a while to get there.
Yeah.
Speaking of solid wins, this one was a lot quicker. This is Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Shamil Gaziv. I mean, look, man, the meal deal strikes again. But this was a serving that Kennedy entirely deserved based on how he was conducting himself in this fight. I think I saw him in the chat earlier, but we're good friends with the 10-7 guys. So shout out to Dino and Dino over there. But Dino Bam Bam came into the chat on the watch along and said Kennedy Nzechukwu was doing his worst MVP impression. And I was like, after rewatching this fight, it is tremendously accurate how true to life that was. Hands low, bouncing around like a pogo stick throughout this fight, just baiting Shamil Gaziv to punch him in the face. So you know what Shamil Gaziv did? He tracked him down and he punched him in the face, and he didn't get up after that. So really, I think the Kennedy Nzechukwu has a massive ostrich-sized egg on his face based on how he conducted himself in this fight.
No, absolutely. And for old timers like me, I obviously said the same thing as Johnny the God. By the way, shout out Johnny the God. I don't know if I shouted you out earlier,
Hell
but
yeah.
I thought the same thing. It was an Anderson Silva impersonation. MVP is very close, but again, from my era, Anderson Silva was the originator of this. But no, this one was absolutely hilarious because it looked fine and dandy. Oh, he's looking, oh, and then it's like, all right, bro, all right, come on, like you got to stop. You gonna fight the whole heavyweight fight with your hands down? Like, are you? Come on, like what thought did you even think that this was?
Well, I'll
And
tell you one thing.
go ahead.
I will say, because what I had said about Kennedy Nzechukwu coming into heavyweight is that he, with his physique and being a light heavyweight before that, maybe the athleticism could be something that could propel him into better results. I thought that maybe that, same with Guilherme Pat, a guy who has that kind of a build and still naturally can make heavyweight effectively. Utilize that. So I was not mad at utilizing the movement. I was mad at the lack of defense and all of those other things, and then just being so brazen about baiting the shot. So anyway, I just wanted to at least say that could be the thought process, whether it was or not, anybody's guess.
Well, and it's you have this whole idea that you're going to be some slick defensive in and out kind of guy here, and what Shamil Gaziv did, I don't know if anybody picked this up, and correct me if I'm wrong. But so Shamil Gaziv, they stood there for a second. He whiffed a couple punches. Shamil Gaziv threw a straight right. Kennedy did his little, ooh, you missed me, bro. Shamil Gaziv threw the same straight right and just like put it like right there instead of right there. And it's like the dude didn't expect him to throw the same punch and like maybe throw it differently because it just chins him. It just instantly fucking chins him. It was the stupidest fucking thing ever. It's not even a knockout. Listen, some people in the stands, the casuals, they would see this and go crazy probably. When you are somebody who watches this sport, religiously, I would say, Kennedy really tried to make a mockery of what we had going here, I think. Like, bro, you cannot come into the UFC in the heavyweight division and think that you are this fucking guy, bro. Like, Shamil Gaziev really just laid you out. Like, you don't even have an expression. It's not even like oh, he did that. It's like you fucking loser, bro. Like, what are you doing? Like,
And where does Kennedy Nzechukwu get off thinking that he could be that after what we have seen from him at heavyweight? That's my thing with that. It's like, look, if you Anderson Silva fucking earned the right to do what he did in his fights. You know what I mean? He was clowning people with effectiveness, and then it ended up biting him in the ass later on. But he had a long, long time of that working for him. MVP comes in with a little bit of a unique movement pattern or whatever, also worked for him for a very long time. Even in the UFC, it had moments of working for him for a good long while. So I don't know where Kennedy Nzechukwu just decides that that's how he thinks he's going to be able to do that to Shamil Gaziev, who has, a couple here and there maybe have not been exactly how he wanted them to go, but generally a pretty dangerous guy, certainly a powerful guy. And to think that he was going to do the brush off to the side and that was just going to be it when Shamil Gaziev could put a more accurate strike behind it. Brother, you did this to yourself.
it's not even about like Shamil being like a tactician on the feet. It's like, Kennedy, you saw a straight right get thrown. You did one thing. You saw a straight right get thrown again, and then you saw stars. Like, brother, like you never came in with no defensive technique of what you were going to do. You thought style points were genuinely going to get past Shamil Gaziev, and that was the issue here, bro. Just crazy.
Ridiculous. So shout out to Shamil Gaziev. I thought that this was a very nice KO win, and I really it's what I said. Just put the short out today, I believe, about Kennedy Nzechukwu, saying that he's not it. He's not it at heavyweight. I mean, we've been saying that for a while now, based on what we've been seeing out of him. And this type of performance, it certainly does not inspire any level of confidence going forward. So you need to regroup very quickly if you think you're going to be able to make a name for yourself, or you're going to get lapped by a lot more competition than just Shamil Gaziev.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. All right. Well, this one next was a little bit more interesting here, and I was giving you massive props on the watch-along chase. This is Jamal Emmers versus Le'Veon Douglas. I thought that this was a pretty nice sticking to the game plan. If you listen to Jamal Emmers in his post-fight interview, he had said, he was like, I'm going to get him into the funnel, and I'm just going to find the shot. If it's not going to be the strike, it'll be a takedown. Didn't have to go for the takedown. But I thought that if you rewatch the way that this fight went down, there were a couple of times where he was having to evade. I mean, I think that Jamal Emmers was a little bit respectful of the power of Le'Veon Douglas. Maybe he watched some tape and saw what he was doing to some of his previous opponents. So there were some times where he was on his bike, having to get a little bit of distance in there. But throughout the entirety of this thing, if you really watch, Jamal Emmers is doing a lot of circling, but he always is consistently getting closer to the center. He's like, I really actually like this performance a lot from Jamal Emmers. Like we talk about the funnel. It really clicked for me the way he was doing his lateral movements around the cage. It gets closer and closer and closer. He finally finds the shot where he's comfortable. Le'Veon Douglas getting a little bit too comfortable with all of that movement ends up getting caught. I thought that this was actually a really impressive performance.
Well, so to start, we talked about Taquito earlier, Marcio Barbosa. I said he's got a little Ilya in him. From what I have been told, Larry and Douglas is the Ilya of Brazil. At least that's how they've been treating him. And, brother, I figured it was possible that he would, meet his demise in the UFC. Did I think it was going to happen, immediately? No, not really. This fight, I picked Jamal Emmers, of course. Jamal Emmers was really just, he could have been anybody, really. It's not necessarily I was picking him. I was picking the idea that anybody could beat Larry. And Jamal Emmers really proved that point because anybody happened to beat Jamal Emmers this night. And you say it was a good pick, giving props. Like, that's fine. Let's hold our horses because I was worried for him. At any moment, I thought this dude was going to get chinned. Like, literally, he was throwing strikes where he didn't seem as confident. Like, he would jump in and he would jump out before he really kind of like laid into one. And I was like, doesn't really seem like he's as. And then he started doing that little the little tie thing. And I was like, man, this is not looking great. But to his credit, game plan effective, 100%. And some people just get caught. I'm not gonna say Larry and Douglas sucks. I think him coming back from this will make him better. I think it'll make the fan base a little more honest. Larry and Douglas got cracked, got his orbital bone broken. They said he couldn't see right after, which was interesting, by the way. Um, it happens, bro. But Jamal Emmers, listen, again, Larry and Douglas, like, I'm not saying it was you being, this aura, this negative aura that I was getting, but I feel like this is better for your career. You lose now, you can have a bigger. I mean, obviously, if your fucking orbital's broke, we don't know what's about to happen to this dude. But Jamal Emmers giving you an early lesson in your career. It's not the worst thing, assuming you're going to make a pretty big comeback after. But orbital right now is not necessarily what you want to do. But I guess you're young, and we'll see how it goes. Jamal Emmers, really good win, man. I did not see this one coming the way it did, but I was happy to say that somebody was going to catch Larry and Douglas, and on this night, I took Jamal Emmers to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you're saying that you don't think the Lejean Douglas sucks now, because that was a big narrative going around even before this fight, that this guy is a fraud and that this guy is going to get touched. It's only a matter of time. Now, I mean, I think that you saying that is more like, it's a matter of time. Will it be this? Will it be that? I mean, there are people that were like, this guy is, he is fraudulent as they get. And I'm like, I don't understand where this is coming from. Now, granted, the strength of competition may not have been there yet, but I'm seeing a dude who seems pretty powerful, able to get knockouts. I always go off of what is working until it's not. But I said on the predictions, I was like, Jamal Emmers could definitely be the guy to do this. So it doesn't really like shock me that this is how this all went down. Emmers being a little bit more cautious, I think played into the trap setting. So yeah, game planning on point for that. Orbital being broke, that is going to be a little bit of a time off perhaps, but that's not something that you don't come back from. So I think that, I mean, I hope that this ends up being a little bit of a learning experience for him. And I do hope that Lejean Douglas comes back to prove all of these other people wrong, because I don't understand why this guy is getting the hatred that he was getting even before this fight started, but apparently people really don't like him. I don't understand it. The last thing I wanted to say though, is that if he could not see after the fight, I'm glad only for the fact that he did not have to see Jamal Emmers hit his own emote on him.
I was glad you brought it up. That was going to be my next thing. Where do you rank this amongst all of the pistol and or weaponry type celebrations that we have seen? Because this one was interesting. This was more like your Mexican style. This was your poppers, your cap guns. That was pretty good. I like this from Jamal.
I mean, I don't dislike it. I think that it's a little bit disrespectful knowing that is, basically going back against the gunslinger over here. But either way, I mean, he won the fight. He deserves to do it. Not quite as good as the bow and arrow from Izzy, of course.
Well, but did Izzy get down in a power squat when he did his? This was really key about Jamal Emmers, is he squatted down and he shot the pistols from the hips. This was nice.
Indeed. Yeah, he was going Wild West out there. It was pretty impressive. But yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was definitely a pointed celebration, I would call it. But appropriate after you get a win like that. You get to do what you want.
Absolutely.
So good deal for Jamal Emmers. I was happy with this. I did not pick this one correctly, but it was one that I was not super surprised by. So good stuff. And hopefully Lejean heals up quickly from the orbital injury.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, that takes us on to main card here, starting off with our Contender Series alum, Mr. Anthony Wint. He was fighting Terrence Chapman. Of course, what I said about this starting off, when you have this type of build that Anthony Wint has, he's a smaller guy, but he's stocky, he's very built, but not super tall. When you have this kind of build and you grapple, you have to win 3 fights on the Contender Series to get a contract. But when you strike, you get to punch people in the spine, you get a contract, and then you get an instant booking and a layup in your debut. So really, if you are built like this man, go out there and use your hands.
No, absolutely. Yeah, this one was interesting because Terrence Chapman came in here. I would like to make the note that his nickname was called The Answer.
Mm-hmm.
And it has nothing to do with him having any sort of answers inside of the cage. It has probably something to do with him having braids and being light-skinned. So maybe Allen Iverson. I don't know.
Or maybe the confidence level, because the thing that I heard from him pre-fight is him say, I am 100% confident that I am going to knock out Anthony Wint.
What I will say to that is I'm not actually surprised about that.
Of course.
Well, not necessarily just the confidence level of any fighter, but he trains at 4 Ounce Fight Club, so he trains around or with Josh Van. Of course, Michael Aswell was in his corner. I was really thinking that he might be able to pull this off. I was really hoping that he could pull this off. I thought we were going to see something slick. I thought we were going to see something interesting. We did not, out of a heavyweight, unfortunately. The thing is, actually, and this is what's unfortunate, is the fight got to the ground, and Terrence Chapman actually almost kind of upset a lot of people when he pulled this Kimura.
True.
Finding out Anthony went, apparently so-called, has never trained how to get out of a Kimura. For him to get out of it, if that is the true statement, very impressive. It did not look like he knew how to defend it, by the way. Let me just say it like that. As an 8-0 pro, you don't think we should have trained the Kimura once to figure that one out? I'm just saying. I mean, if Terrence Chapman was anybody else, had he be from South America, he would have just won by Kimura. Like, you know what I mean? Like anything could have been possible, or he would have swept him and got back to the feet. I'm not saying Anthony did get submitted, or he should have. It was very concerning. I was like, damn, bro, how green are you? Like, you don't know what a Kimura. It's like Josh Hokett with the armbar. It's like, bro, what are you doing?
Well, I mean, two things. So you're saying that there was not much impressive, though. I will say that I don't necessarily agree with that. Now, when it comes to Kimura defense, yes, certainly leaves something to be desired there. But this guy, Anthony Wint, he was a dog with a bone for the takedown. Gets the takedown, drives the double, can't get it, goes for the lift, doesn't get the lift either, keeps the control, and then slings the single leg. I was happy with all of that. Yes, Kimura was a little bit of a problem for him, but the submission that he did end up getting, you're saying he doesn't have the Kimura defense. He also didn't know how to fully set up the head and arm. I mean, he still had the one knee on the thigh, didn't swing his body over to the side, but apparently the arms and the strength that he had within them enough to get the submission on a heavyweight. We talk all the time about how submitting heavyweights is next to impossible. How many times have we seen a heavyweight in a head and arm that's actually properly sunk in and they just lay there for an hour because there's no actual compression with the size of the neck and the arm that they're holding on to? This guy somehow made it work.
Just to clarify, and because I brought this up about our guy from the contender series last week, we could still see this dude end up popping. I don't know. Listen, this dude is super fucking strong, and his physique is crazy, but it's so not that far removed from the contender series that we could see in 5 months that this dude was taking who knows what. I'm not trying to put that on him, but I do want to just have the same magnifying glass as I did to the other fighter that we had.
Brother, you know that it's always the fucking doughy, bloated guys that end up popping. It's never the dudes that are built like this dude.
You're not incorrect, but these are the guys. Listen, some people get away with it easier than others. Mark Kerr used to be on that shit, bro. You don't know what these dudes are built like.
And to be fair, it could be anybody. I mean, really. I mean, we're putting a magnifying glass on him. You can put a magnifying glass on anybody on this card and literally anybody on the roster. You never know. It's always hard to decipher all of that kind of stuff. So, if you're keeping an eye out, always be vigilant, I would say, but not just for him, for anybody.
Absolutely.
But I thought that this was a very nice submission win here, for a guy who's not necessarily known for submissions. The thing that I said is the same note that we had coming into this fight and on the contender series is that he is an undersized heavyweight. His size is going to be a problem for him going forward, regardless. They're trying to build him a little bit with this win that he got here. That's great. We're going to have to see him up against bigger guys, and that might be the issue, but he does use his speed and movement effectively. So I am interested to see him continuing on. He's the one out here saying, oh, you guys got problems now. Okay, well, we're going to find out how big the problems are, because these, you're not going to be fighting Terrence Chapman for your entire career here. Heavyweight's going to get a lot harder for you.
What I will say, and this goes to and calling a spade, we talk about Josh Hokett, how unbearable his post fights or pre fights, anything associating with a mic can be. Anthony Wint is joining the list of people that are unbearable on the fucking microphone.
He does get very preachy. Yes, he gets a little bit animated. Now, I mean, look, I think that it's fine to show your personality and all of that. He might go a little bit farther than some people would like, but he did get a nice submission win in this fight, so I think the animation is warranted, I suppose.
What I will say is another fun thing about him, and I don't think he did this on purpose, and if he did, I think he knows something that I don't, about life. So at the end of the fight, he's like, and your winner by, whatever, Anthony, bow down. And as soon as he said bow down, he got down on his knees and bowed down. I'm like, oh, it's a command. Oh, when you say his name, he bows down. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like,
he's showing respect to his Lord and Savior that guides him in all things that he does.
Dude, I listen, guys, I don't know if you feel this way. Chatters out there, if I'm going to turn you off, I apologize, but I don't know how many times on this night did people thank a guy who was not in the room with them for the performance that they put on. I'm just saying, can at a certain point can we get a person that says, "I fucking did it. I fucking did." Like, bro,
Yeah.
fuck the Lord. Like, bro, goddamn, like
Jeez. All right. Well, yes. But yeah, no, I mean, I do get your point with that. And it does get a little bit much. I mean, like every single fighter is just, it's constantly the same, messaging all the way up to the top of this card, really. I mean, I think almost every single other fighter, with rare exception, was basically starting it off the same way that they always do. But either way, he's a very religious guy. Good for him. He got the win. And we'll see how he fares against some other dudes coming up.
what the fuck is religious about a goddamn machete, brother? Like, that's his little damn emote. Like,
The
ugh.
Lord commands him to use the machete.
True, I get you. All right,
The
all right.
Lord was on his side and not Terrence Chapman's side, obviously. That's always what I think about it. It's like, the God, thank you, God, for this win and not for taking that guy to win.
Yeah, it's like, thank you, God, for making life about me for right now. Like, damn, like, does nobody else have a God that they can have problems and talk to? Like, fuck, Terrence or
No,
Anthony. Terrence. I don't know who Terrence is, but Anthony went. Like, bro, can I borrow God for today? Like,
uh,
fuck. Like,
God likes me better.
mm,
I pray harder.
yeah, crazy.
All right. Well, either way, fine win, and we'll see what happens there. But an even finer win, perhaps. Our girl Carly Judice, who fought Jalisa Chavez. I know that this might have been a little bit sad because I know how big of a fan you are of Chavez, but man, this Carly Judice just keeps racking up the wins, brother. And a female finisher always gets the eyeballs.
We're seeing it more often than not right now. Like, we have a lot of prospects that are finishers when it comes to women's, and if
Love
they're
to see
not, they
it.
put one hell of a fucking beating on Gigi Canuto. So, listen, I should have seen this one coming. Obviously, I did. We knew Carly was going to win, but her taking an undefeated record off somebody, it's like, oh, you can bill that. It's like, oh, she beat Jalissa Chavez when she was undefeated. They're still needing to just build a resume for Carly Judice because they know like the skills match up. But at 7-2, it would not be wise of us to just throw her into a matchup where she may or may not get fucked up. And I don't even think that's what's going to happen, but we need to know for certain that that's not going to happen before. Because Carly Judice, I'm kind of thinking in a realm of like a Chris Duncan. Very exciting, very promising. We see it, and then as soon as she got jumped up to somebody that we really expected him to work over, it just went completely south. And then he hasn't really recovered since. So I think that's what we don't want from Carly Judice, because I think there's a lot of different images that you can have as a female fighter, and I think Carly Judice, I think she has like that kind of old school $1 million baby look, dude. I think she's not all dolled up, Jalissa Chavez, the ring girl, she's a very very beautiful woman, of course. Carly Judice, she's just like her. So she's a very natural person. When she's in there, she speaks very naturally. Very nice teeth, by the way. Hey, she's got a nice smile. Carly Judice, just keep being yourself. I think that in of itself is a very good look for an athlete. She's like the sports. She's like the tracksuit kind of girl. She's not necessarily wear the fucking dress to the weigh-ins or whatever. She's like locked into the athletics life, and I really appreciate that out of her. Is what I'll say.
Yeah, what I think about Judice, based on what you were just saying there, is there's kind of like two roads that she might end up branching on, depending on how they continue booking her. Because like what we saw out of Fatima Klein was a finisher early on, getting some really good finishes, some very very spectacular, highlight worthy, completion to fights here. And then what we see now from her after she's been jumped up, she's still an exciting fighter. She's still one of the best prospects in the sport, but she is not finishing her fights the way that she once was. Carly Judice needs to get to that point where we see whether she can continue to finish the fights, or if it's going to be like that, where it's like, okay, she can still win fights, but she's not necessarily as dangerous as she was against some of these prospects that she's been going up against. Or does she end up starting to crumble under that pressure? There's a couple of different branching paths there. Now, I'm hoping that Carly Judice can just keep the streak going. I mean, it'd be great to see if she is that dedicated to the sport. She's asking for more bookings. She wants to be more active. Throw her in there. I mean, I don't think that there's anybody else that's more deserving right now of that level of a jump. This isn't even a hot shotting at this point. What's like four wins in a row for her right now? So,
Yeah.
I think,
Yep.
yeah. So I mean,
Oh
that's
yeah.
just that's the end of the point. It's just that I mean, like 4 wins in a row. This is not a hot shotting at this point. She's proven herself. She's finishing fights. Now we just need to see if she can graduate to that next level, and if she does, if they put her there, what does that look like?
No, I think this is great. Carly Judice is obviously still on her way to be something amazing. It is going to be, I don't know, maybe I'll ask you this, Thinker, and the chat can also weigh in. What would you prefer? Would you prefer a matchup where you see the potential that Carly Judice has a challenge on her hands and you want to see her struggle and you want to see if she can overcome that obstacle? Would you rather that, or would you rather somebody that you never expected to just up and just, not beat Carly Judice? Potential to beat her is one thing, but it's going to be somebody that we never expected potentially that just shows up in a fight like a Jalissa Chops, and we're like, oh yeah, she's going to fucking kill her, and
No,
then Carly gets just obliterated. What are the possibilities that could happen for Carly at this point? The expectations are only going to go higher. We talked about with Fatima Klein how she's kind of getting in her own head a little bit. I don't know if you follow her on Twitter. She talks a little. She's thinking that she's really, really good now, and that's fine. That's great, but we got to hone in. We can't let the talking get a little too ahead. I don't want Carly Judice to be in the position where we're starting to think the expectations are really high on her. Is all I'm saying. I don't know.
yeah, well, I don't appreciate that Fatima Klein talking smack about my gorgeous Danielle Kelly, but
That was
either
weird.
yeah, very strange. Still don't know what's going on with that, but no, I mean, out of the two of what you just laid out, definitely the first. I mean, she's already earned that. Is my point. It's like because what you're saying is the second option with her getting just beaten or knocked out or obliterated
Mhm.
by some random person. She doesn't deserve that based on the record that she has at this point. If she's going to lose, it should be to higher level competition by
Well,
now. She's earned it.
not even necessarily just like a random person that's not ranked or just on their debut or anything, but just somebody random in the rankings that you would have never expected. This is the layup, right? We see the layup for her to get in the rankings, and that's unfortunately the one that goes the sideways the most, and that's the biggest learning experience. Would you want that, or are you going to want to see her go toe to toe against somebody that you think potentially is going to beat her? I don't know. I feel
Yeah,
like from a sports perspective, there's excitement in both of those, of course. When you see the person that you never thought was going to do it, that person is going to look like a fucking G. So that beats Carly Judice. So
well, and that's the thing is it depends on what position that person that you're describing is at. Like, are we talking about like number like 13, or are we talking about number 8? You know what I mean?
mm,
Like I think that there's a big difference between those two, depending on how you're trying to grow her within the division here. Because am I mistaken? She's still unranked, right?
yes,
So, I mean, at one way or another, you need to jump her into the rankings, and it needs to be the next fight. Her next fight needs to be against a ranked opponent. Absolutely. Where where your proclivities lie as to like what you think that looks like, I think that that's kind of up to the individual. But I would say that somewhere like at least hovering around the top 10. I mean, it doesn't have to be in the top 10, but like I would say that maybe number 11, if you just want to get her in the rankings, period, it should be somewhere around there between 11 and 8. 11 and 9,
yeah,
somewhere in that range would be appropriate. So whoever that ends up being, that would be what I think would be a good starting point. And then if she wins, then we can decide thereafter, if it's like, okay, now it's time for some real competition.
absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, the only other note that I had about this fight, and we can move on after this, is just that Chavez kind of had a little bit of an instance here where it reminded me of the our Pakistani queen from the Ultimate Fighter. I mean, she got kicked a couple of times to the midsection, and then one of them just kind of shut her down. It didn't even look like it touched the liver, but it must have caught the side of the organ, or just somewhere. It might have just hurt the midsection that badly, but it did shut her down. So a little bit more body conditioning might be a good thing for Chavez, but taking a loss to a surging prospect like Judice is definitely not the worst loss you can take. And 8-1 is a fine record too, so she should come back just fine.
Absolutely.
Good deal. All right. Well, this was the most heartbreaking fight of the card for me. It was Markel Medeiros versus Mason Jones. As I said, this hurt my heart for this to be the fight to break a 7-win streak for Mason Jones. Really, it came out of left field for me as far as like how this all went down. And B, this did not seem like anywhere outlandish compared to what Mason Jones had already encountered. We know that Mason Jones is a guy that needs to take a couple shots in order to get himself woken up. He can tank damage and come back. We've seen that multiple times. Should that be the way that you conduct yourself in fights? No, I don't think that you should be taking that much damage to give it thereafter. And this can happen if that is how you do it. But we have seen it before. So for this to be the guy to do it to him and really put him into the bullet time at the end of this fight was really made me very sad.
It's maybe been a while since I've had good thing to say, but I could be wrong. I think I've said before that Marco Maderos has potential to be okay. I don't think I've ever said that he's been horrible or bad. The draw with Padilla, whatever. I don't really worry about that one. But I agree with you that I don't think anybody saw this one coming, nor did anybody want to ever expect this. This was hard, bro. And listen, Marco Maderos tweeted after the fight. He was like, "Listen, man, I'm a fan of Mason too, but I had to do it." And it's like, I respect the guy because to go in here and fight somebody like Mason Jones is a tough ask, especially when you're somebody that on paper I don't think there's anybody out there that took you, bro. So the fact that Markel Maderos was able to come in here and get this win, not only win, but to beat the living hell out of Mason Jones, brother, that was definitely some stellar performance. I mean, he had Mason Jones hitting the crack lean like he's like fentanyl stuck in time. Like the shit was bad, bro. And fair play to him, bro. We often talk about when fighters they're progressing through their career. It's like, all right, I need to see a fight where he just gets dirty, dude. Like he's just ready to just give it all. I think Markel Maderos really just showed me that he do have that dog in him. Like that he when it comes down to it, and maybe this shows again back to Chris Padilla. When it comes down to it, when a fight gets brought to him, it looks like Markel Maderos is the one who's going to stand his fucking ground and actually do some shit. Because the game changed. He's got his game on the outside, but when Mason got in close, this dude, you're talking about Chris fucking Padilla's elbows, brother. I saw him pump faking elbow. Like, get the fuck out of here. You know what Markel Maderos did? I just smash him in the fucking face when this dude walks into me. Markel Maderos destroyed Mason Jones with the elbows, and it's unfortunate to say, but it is exactly what happened. Mason Jones started eating shots left and right horribly until the ref unfortunately had to step in. And it was a fair stoppage. I'm not gonna say Mason needed more, man. It was fucking done,
Oh
bro.
yeah, no, absolutely. I remember us having a discussion a while ago, maybe a year or two ago at this point, about stoppages on the feet and the validity of them. If there was ever an example of a good stoppage on the feet, this was it. But yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy too because I thought that Mason was looking fine in that first round. I mean, it was the exact fight I was expecting through round one. The problem is that Mason Jones is just purely a brawler. He's defensively unsound, and that has been something that has worked for him in the past, but he could not pull it off here when Medeiros put forth a really good offensive effort. I agree. I mean, those elbows were the decision makers for sure. And that round two, it wasn't just the elbows leading. They ended up being the decider in the end. But like starting that round off, I thought that Medeiros was letting his hands go really nicely with some good variety throughout that round. And he gets staggered. Jones does, of course. And then I would have thought that like even in the staggered state, immediate level changing just to get your head back in the game, knowing that you are the guy to tank damage. Give yourself that opportunity. Change levels for a little while. Clinch him up on the cage for a second just so you can clear the cobwebs. Doesn't do that. Just ends up getting touched up further. And then, like you said, he's hitting the Kensington lean at the end of this fight. So really, I was not a person who put a lot of stock into Markel Medeiros. Chat was saying at the time during the watch along, well, if Mason Jones is so defensively unsound, this should have been something that we saw coming. I want to give Markel Medeiros a little bit more credit than that. I think that after going through round one, he could have easily have been broken off of round one. Now, I don't think that he should have been, but it's like, how it goes. You lose a round like that. It could mess up your, your perception of how you're doing in a fight or not make the adjustments you need. Whatever could have happened did not happen to him. He came back. He was stronger in the second round. He put on a really good performance in that round. So I want to evolve my thinking a little bit about Markel Medeiros based on this performance. I thought it looked really good after he had taken some adversity.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Hearing this dude made 100 grand off of this ass whooping, It hurts to hear, bro. Mason, like, fuck, man.
I like you said, I don't think anybody really saw it coming, especially based on round one. I was like, after round one, I'm like, oh, things are going great. I'm sailing to this was the linchpin of my parlays right here. I was like, yeah, and after talking about the next fight that we're going to talk about, I was like, God, was I an idiot not to put the other guy on the parlay? But yeah, no, I mean, this one really killed me when round two started. But it all goes back to Markel Medeiros, who really made it happen for himself. So shout out to him, and of course, RIP to his brother. He said on his post fight that his brother just passed away. So that's very sad. And of course, our hearts are with him on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that one's definitely unfortunate, but a great performance. I mean, if you don't have another great performance, I do say that you were able to channel something amazing for your brother in this one, brother. That was good.
For sure, definitely against a guy that, I mean, a lot of people had a lot of stock. And I was saying, I think I even said it on the last episode, Mason Jones, one of my favorite current fighters right now. And it really stings. This one really stings. So
No, this dude is a lot of people's favorite fighter right now. That he's a sleeper for sure, but he's known.
yeah, I mean, now he has to build it all back up again. I think that a fight like this kind of might change the perception for some people.
Ah, damn, it's unfortunate.
Yeah. But that takes us to the next one here. And this, you want to talk about unfortunate. You thought that there were some poor performances. We talked about Chris Padilla. You didn't like that. We talked about Kennedy and Nzechukwu. That was really, really dumb conducting of oneself. This fight right here had possibly one of the worst performances ever in the UFC in it. So that's a real accomplishment here. This is Rainier de Ritter versus Roman Dolidze. There's going to be a clip coming out from the watch along tomorrow to show my feelings about how Roman Dolidze performed or did not perform in this fight. I don't think that I have ever seen anything quite like this. Yeah, you came into the chat for this one, Chase, to say that you thought that this was a dive. Now, when I hear someone say that it's a dive, generally a dive would lead me to believe that, oh, maybe there's some backdoor dealing. Somebody might have slipped a little money in there, whatever. That's one version of a dive. This version of a dive to me was what you sometimes say about people who just are here for the show money. That's what it seemed like to me. This seemed like Roman Dolidze is literally showing up to get the half paycheck, and that's all that he needs from this sport. This guy, we already had said he's halfway out of this sport. He needs to be full on out of this sport at this point if this is how he's coming into fights.
I brought up to you a point about when it came to sports gambling and fixtures in the game. Are you really throwing a fight if you're just fighting the wrong way? If you're just not attempting to win, are you actually throwing the fight? Like he's fighting. He's just not actually doing it in the way that's going to win. He just goes in there and pulls fucking guard, tries to go for a leg lock against a grappler, and then he just lays there and gets TKO'd. And then at the end of the fight, he says, "I was still ready to go. The ref ended it." Like, bro, just shut up. Just stop. This was no effort from Roman Dolidze. It's crazy because we have been hearing from the last couple fights, like each time it's like, oh yeah, he's definitely not in it. He's definitely not in it. And each time it's like more and more obvious that he's like not here. And that he didn't care to win this fight. He had no intentions to. And this is what sucks, because this is a sport and because rankings and where people are situated amongst each other matters. Now people really think Rainier de Ritter is like some menace of heavyweight right now. This dude fucking cried in his post-fight speech after this, bro.
Everybody's making a big deal about this. He was on a 2-fight losing streak. I mean, I think everybody's being a little hard on the guy.
Self-awareness, like your opponent. I would have went on there, bro. Roman, that was all you fucking had. Are you fucking for real? Like something. We've never seen somebody do that, but after a performance like that, come on. RDR would have gained so many fans if he would have went out there and said, I wanted a real fucking fight. I don't know what that dude was doing. Like,
fair enough. I mean, that it would have been pretty harsh, but it certainly would have been a headline.
It needed it. It needed it, bro. Yeah. Roman cannot get away with this.
No. I mean, yeah, that is certainly for us to say. Absolutely. I mean, this was just atrocious. I mean, like this really, I said it. And again, you'll see the clip tomorrow when it comes out. But like from the watch line, I really said, I was like, this is the worst Roman Dolidze performance and one of the worst UFC performances of all time. I mean, we've seen some really like it's not even because you could say, oh, it's the game plan backfired. it did not seem like there was a game plan in there. You're going for legs immediately, pulling guard on, like you said, the grappler. This is a decorated grappler. This is a guy this isn't some dude who just has a black belt from the strip mall karate over here. I mean, this is a guy who has the credentials to back it up in a grapple heavy organization that he came from. So, I mean, like, I can't say enough negative things about this. And I hate, I really try not to be a hater, like out of pocket. But when you fight like this or don't fight like this, I mean, this really it goes back to Chase. I was always a little bit skeptical of using the example. But when you say I could do that, this is what it clicked. I was like, you know what? You are right, because I too could go in there, pull guard and get pummeled on the ground. So, I think it tracks.
If you genuinely gave me 4 minutes, I could land 4 strikes and lose by TKO. That is something that I could genuinely do. I could try to dive for his leg and fail. Roman Dolidze, you are the professional athlete. You are supposed to inspire me to believe that, like, holy shit, there's humans on this planet that can do something that I can't do. I could also not shave my chest, bro. Like, that's all I gotta say there.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that Roman accomplished in this fight was having himself folded over like like a pita bread with his ass in RDR's face. So, for at least that, at least you have the distinguished honor of having your derriere in the face of Reinier de Ridder, which not a lot of people can say that they have done. So, if that is a highlight for you, congratulations there. RDR pummels the side of Roman's head and does one thing I did want to say, and at least in Rainier's credit here, because we're talking about how bad Dolidze is, but the one thing that Reinier did that I thought was really good in this fight was that once he knew that Roman wasn't doing anything, Roman tried to roll out of a lot of positions. He did a really good job of not letting him escape. So he got him in his clutches. He wasn't going to allow this to get dragged out any longer. You're talking about people who allow fights to go on too long. Reinier de Ridder did not allow for that to be the case. So I did want to give him at least that credit.
The last thing that I'll say about this one, it has nothing to do with the fight, but it's a story that I don't know if you're familiar with, but it may have to do some investigating. If not, somebody was commenting on this about, I guess, Roman's girlfriend or whatever, saying that she cheated on him and he's the worst Georgian fighter. And so, like, I don't know how that worked, or, she cheated on her guy with him and she picked the worst Georgian fighter is actually how that was framed. Excuse me, let me clarify. But I don't know how that worked, but interesting
Did she
stuff.
actually say that? Oh, yeah, no. Well, I know that story.
She didn't. That was just...
Okay. Because I thought that it was actually Ihor Potieria, but I guess it is Roman Dolidze is the one that she actually was. Because I remember it's a Cheyenne Bays and Cheyenne Velismus after she divorced from JP Bays. But yes, yeah, she got.
Oh, JP Buys is out there somewhere celebrating.
Yep, I know that Bam Bam has been saying it's that. I thought that it was Ihor Potieria, but if it is Roman Dolidze, then fair enough. He's saying that she has 3 kids and lives in Georgia now. I guess then maybe it is Roman Dolidze. So Roman Dolidze out there stealing ladies from married men, but not able to steal a win from RDR, perhaps. Look. He's what we said. Roman Dolidze is out of this sport. He has businesses in Georgia. He's already on to the next phase of his life. He just needs to be disconnected from MMA completely and go and do that. There's no shame in that, but there's definite shame in doing what you did in this fight.
No, absolutely. Yeah, this was, I feel bad, bro. You let RDR, he has a sham of a debut at light heavyweight. Like, that's just fucked up.
And he said that anyone at light heavyweight can get it. So we're going to have to see what happens with that.
When they look like that, yeah, anybody can fucking get it up here. But if Brendan Allen, heaven forbid, steps up to fucking light heavyweight, your day is ruined. Like, Jesus.
Well, we're gonna find out. I mean, he's got a lot of people ahead of him at light heavyweight who could give him a lot better fight than that. So we'll see how RDR fares at the new weight, because we really did not get a good. Same all the information gathering. Same what we were talking about with Shanelle Dyer. We really did not learn too much about RDR at light heavyweight from this. So hopefully the next fight will be a little bit more competitive and give us more information, but I would still be cautious about betting on RDR at light heavyweight, and Roman Dolidze just needs to get the fuck out of here. That's the takeaway.
It's like Roman thinks he's like a Walter Walker. Like, he thinks his leg lock game is like superior. Like, he can just do it on anybody. And it's untrue.
Quite obviously it's untrue. He didn't even have the positioning to go for the heel hook if he was trying for that. So, I mean, I don't understand what the thought process was there. He literally pulled him down on top of him. This was not a drop for a heel hook. This was, I want to go to the ground. Come down with me.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, this was not a great performance.
yeah, this was absolutely terrible. So let's keep it moving. Your co-main event was not much better as far as the quality of fight. It was certainly a longer fight, though. It was Sergey Spivak versus Vitor Petrino. This fight was pretty bad.
Um, this one was really bad. I feel bad for Spivak because there was moments where I think he could have capitalized, and he just didn't have it for this night for some reason. I don't know what that was about. Vitor Petrino, on the other hand, because the story is all about him. I will have to admit, and this is sucky to hear because I do not like this dude's fight style. I don't think he's the best. I don't think he's yada yada yada. This is what you would call the nightmare matchup in a division. Is because when you are watching it, it is like you are in a nightmare. This dude is so not fun, but he consistently can win, is what it looks like, guys. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be the champ, but he may win, and we may hate watching it for a decent amount of time right now, bro. This
Yeah.
is not looking good.
Well, I mean, look, I think that the unfortunate aspect of this fight was certainly Petrino being boring, but it also really comes down to Sergey Spivak, man. This was a very inactive performance for him, even in round one. Now, round one was, again, as inactive as the rest of the rounds, but the optics were already on Petrino's side. Got his nose bloodied up. It was a jab that did it, but it must have been a pretty heavy jab, or at least a good connection on it, because the nose was pretty consistently bleeding throughout this fight. So optically, he's already ahead of the race. Then throughout the rest of this thing, Spivak really just does not like get himself out of second gear. I mean, he just his corners. I wanted to highlight Sergey Spivak's corner because I thought that they were doing everything within their power to try to motivate this guy, telling him all the right things. Get active. Third round, they're like, dude, you're so far down. You got to do it for your father. I guess Sergey Spivak's father just passed away. That's very unfortunate, of course. But, trying to channel anything within this fighter, and it just did not seem to be there for Sergey Spivak at any time during this fight. Round two, he got laid on for the entire round. No real impetus to try to get back to his feet or even scoot to the cage to try to work his way back up. This was just a roundly uneventful fight with Spivak putting very little effort forth.
Yeah, the second round was the interesting part. That's where it started, of course, because yeah, you got laid on for the entirety of the round. And this is where again it comes to the nightmare aspect of this. Vitor Petrino is going to keep winning at heavyweight, is what it looks like. And mind you, this is a guy who had the back of Sergey Spivak slid all the way down and slammed his face right into the canvas.
True.
It's unfortunate, but in that moment, you saw Spivak. He grabbed his back, and I was like, oh my God, there it is. There's the momentum switch. He just needed that moment to feel like I could do something right. Third round, he's going to come out better than ever. Nope. He came out that third round tired, hands down, didn't really have the ability to walk forward. But Petrino was gassed too. I mean, this was a fight where nobody should have been this tired, but it is heavyweight, so you always have to have the excuse. But Petrino, when he looks like that and you did a bunch of laying on him, you probably shouldn't be this tired, but he was. Spivak, though, just literally had nothing left to give. I don't know what was going on, but this was just not a great performance, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said at the end of the wrap up here in the notes. Weak fight. Petrino not great, but Sergey does appear like he might be entering the back nine as far as where he's at in his career. I mean, it's what I was saying on the previous episode during our predictions. Spivak has been a figure at the heavyweight division, it feels like, for the entire time I've been watching the sport. I mean, for as long as I can remember, Sergey Spivak has been somewhere in the conversation at heavyweight. It might be starting to be at the tail end here. And I don't want that for him. I've always thought that he has way better performances than this to give us. But if this is where he is currently at, maybe there was some mental stuff going on, with the loss of his father. I can't speculate on exactly why this played out how it did. But if this is going to be how he fights going forward, then we might be seeing a sunsetting going on.
Yeah, this one, it's just unfortunate for him, man. I really appreciate the performance sometimes, but this one, it's not it, man. Vitor Petrino he's gonna continue to ruin our lives. So
yeah, probably until somebody who is actually going to really, really take a fight to him is put in front of him. So we'll see when that ends up being. He might end up going up against Jonathan Janice, and maybe that becomes a little bit more competitive because he has an actual striker that's not, maybe going to be a little bit more defensively sound, not get taken down. But Jonathan Janese does get taken down. So it's like that level is what I'm talking about. That's because that's probably where his next fight will be, around that type of fighter, I would suspect, right? So, I mean, I don't know. Actually, maybe not, because I mean, where was Sergey ranked? I mean,
Yeah,
he was
Spivak was like 6th.
that is, oh my God. Yeah. Wow. That's a ridiculous jump. Yeah, life's gonna suck at heavyweight, as it always has. So, all right, well, that prepare for the brave new world with Vitor Petrino in the top 10.
Absolutely.
All right, well, that takes us to the main event of this thing. First of all, shout out to Hydra, by the way, brother.
Yes.
Appreciate you, bro. Saw you in the chat there, my man.
Hey,
shout out to you.
10-7, absolutely shout out. And Rafayuski, you've been rocking with us all night, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, you got the mic close to the mouth shout out for that one, people.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to all you guys. Thank you for hanging out with your boys on a Monday night. Appreciate it. But yeah, that takes us to the main event of this card. Of course, Anthony Hernandez versus Gregory Rodriguez, Fluffy versus RoboCop. This was a great fight. I mean, like, really after the, kind of the wonkiness in the previous two fights, it felt like we might have had that little dip. And, if this had not been great, it would have been a sour way to end this thing. But this really turned out to be quite an awesome fight. I was actually, I was on the way out. I actually went out after this card, had some friends that were doing a little get together. So I was like, oh, if this is a quick finish, that's going to be great. And I'll get out of here early or whatever. It turns out to be a 5-round fight, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh man, this is going on, but it never felt like it was dragging. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, man, this is a really exciting fight throughout the entirety of this thing. Fluffy Hernandez is such a game fighter. He did not win this fight, but I have to give him amazing props and respect. It really does go to show the quality of Strickland's striking and kicks and whatnot. I mean, the things that Strickland was able to accomplish against such a tough motherfucker in Fluffy Hernandez. This dude, I mean, he was on the ground striking off of his back at the end of this fight. He's going for takedowns up until the final horn. I mean, this dude really was trying his absolute hardest throughout all of this. Could not get RoboCop down very, very often. I think that might have been one of his Achilles heel, was just committing a little bit too much to the clinch. But both these guys put on a tremendous performance for what they do and tried to do best. And for that, I'm very thankful.
This fight was very good, of course, and I think it answered a lot of questions that I think, me personally, I feel like I knew about RoboCop specifically, but I think other people finally came around to some ideas about his cardio and about his takedown defense and about his chin, blah, 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 blah. Fluffy, on the other hand, I feel bad because I really didn't give him a chance. And I'm not to say that I was wrong in that. I mean, I thought the main thing that I said, as if you guys remember, I said, I don't even think Fluffy is going to get him down. And he really didn't for the most part, and it wasn't really his game. And I think this is where Fluffy really could have started earlier and started more. Is he had the level change, but he waited way too long on the lock. He was just trying to work it too long when he really needed to do the up down game, because later in the fight, it was about 3rd round, 4th round, he had a moment where he would blitz and he had fast hands and he'd drop down, go for the level. Rodriguez reached down, he'd come back up and he's blitzing with the hands. It's like that was the level that we needed to put on Rodriguez if we were really going to put him out late in the fight. But it definitely seemed like this dude got a second win when it came around to the 4th and 5th round, because RoboCop looked really fucking good, continuing on with the fight. The leg kicks obviously is the story. Fluffy could not handle them, didn't even check them, didn't even attempt for a while. Listen, I've said this before. There is something about South Americans, Latinos. Obviously he's American, but you know what I mean. This dude, they don't check leg kicks. Nate Diaz was the same way. I don't know why they just don't check them. They just say they don't matter, and then they end up mattering. But at the end of the day, he ends up finishing the fight. So do they matter? Who knows? He was able to walk, and he wasn't even the one in the wheelchair after the fight. That's the craziest part.
True.
So the thing is, I was very confident that Fluffy was going to have an ego. Like I feel like that is it is definitely the thing that keeps him relevant. Not relevant, but like he is very good because he has a very good, very big ego. He thinks that he can take any shot. He did, but there were moments where he was taking shots from RoboCop that I was like, oh man, you are fucking lucky, brother. And just to keep getting up and knowing that the fight is not going your way against this scary opponent who is seemingly only getting better as the fight goes on after round 3. I do give Fluffy major props for a dude who, I don't love the style, and I think that it could be better, but we are unfortunately seeing a finished product now. This is what he's going to be. It is fun for the time being, but I'm still not just invested in thinking that there's more to come. But I really appreciate the effort because he made Rodriguez work for it. He really did. And if Rodriguez didn't have that dog, he was going to get finished. So shout out.
No, I agree. I agree with you on all points there, honestly. And it, again, hurts my heart. It's what I was saying last episode. Hurts my heart because I really had higher hopes for Fluffy. And like you said, I think that this really pretty well is the final form of what we're getting out of him, which is a game fighter, which is a guy who can probably stay around in the rankings for quite some time, but he's going to be one of those dudes that hits that upper wall of great fighter, but doesn't really reach that elite level is what it's feeling like at this point, which to me, the way that I look at this sport, there is no shame in that. I think that that is better than 90% of fighters will ever achieve. So that is something that I think that he can still hang his hat on. But based on evolution, what you saw evolution wise is RoboCop in this fight. And Rafayuski in the chat, I think, saying it very well, saying that the patience and the game planning, the strategy was really on display here. Because after those first two rounds, the common talking points. Round 3 is going to be where he's going to gas. This is going to be where everything changes. And if you're watching round 3, everybody kind of thought, oh, here we go. He's up against the cage. He's going to start huffing and puffing over here. He took that time to recognize how many times he's being clinched and what it actually takes to defend in the clinch versus what is being put on him in the clinch. Very big distinction there. Talking about it on commentary, I thought it was a good conversation saying that the person being clinched has their back to the cage. They're not having to worry about putting as much effort and muscle into the situation just to keep themselves upright. They're basically just maintaining while the other person is expending the energy. RoboCop uses that to his advantage. Round 3 allows himself to regen that energy. Round 4 and 5 comes back fresher looking, at least. I'm sure he was still hurting like a son of a bitch, but he comes out looking much more of a fresher fighter and still as game. This is a fight IQ upgrade that we're seeing from him. He is shoring up the holes in his game, which is great to see, what we always talk about wanting to see out of these fighters, making the improvement, getting yourself to that next level. If Fluffy is a finished product, RoboCop is becoming the finished product as we watch him fight over fight, and that could be a very dangerous guy who could be elite.
I can't remember if it was his post-fight speech or if it was later in the press scrums or whatever, but RoboCop, he said something like, I'm the RoboCop. I never stop coming. And I'm like, shout out you, no Diddy, but I like the effort, man. It was good. No, RoboCop, I don't know why I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you feel the same way, but I did not think that RoboCop, bro, plus 200 dog in this fight. I mean, for all the questions that people had, with the wrestling, I mean, I don't know why, but obviously 29 takedown attempts, if that's what you want to call it. I mean, sure, that is a lot to defend. But for me to say I'm not surprised would be crazy. But I figured he would be okay with the wrestling. Now, the thing that surprised me the most, definitely not the cardio, not the wrestling, not anything. I think I realized how sluggish that Rodriguez striking is. Fluffy is fast. Listen, I was thinking about this. We talk about Canelo hands from fucking Bilal. I actually do believe, I think Fluffy Rodriguez does have a little bit of Canelo hands. This dude's hands are fast and they can talk about fluffy, bro. This dude is flurry when it comes to the hands. He's really fast. And so Rodriguez, he got caught up in the mix. He's all trying to throw these big old, and he's already on the inside. Fluffy was just getting to him way too easily. And Rodriguez was able to, combat it or whatever. And they spent a lot of time up against the cage. Trust me. I know people are, they're hypocrites, of course. They think Fluffy is one of the most entertaining fighters that we have. And then they will glaze a lot of other people who get 10 minutes of control time against the cage and get 29 takedown attempts and never get any. I understand, but Fluffy is different. He gets an opportunity to show his heart in a lot of the fights. And sometimes that is a skill for some fighters. Some fighters don't necessarily. When it comes to the attribute bar, the Leon Edwards, that speech hit, and he had that moment. I think Fluffy has those moments where he's willing to showcase that he's here for the long haul. He wants to be a professional athlete in mixed martial arts, and this fight is just crazy to continue with, man. After getting dropped with 3 low kicks, which by the standards are those drops, do they count as knockdowns? I think they should. I mean,
oh yeah.
So
absolutely.
It is crazy to think that if you count that round as a fucking 10-8, I don't know how they got 47-48. In my book, maybe Fluffy won one round is kind of how I judged it. But if you also give a 10-8, it's kind of looking rough for the scoring. I don't know how they came up with this shit. Again, this is from somebody who questions if Mackenzie Dern won 4 rounds in her championship fight against Virna. Whatever. It's fine.
No, I mean, I thought that, yeah, I had it 4-1 RoboCop myself. I think, maybe you could go 3-2 if you're being very, very generous about round one, but I was not. So, I mean, I don't think that there really was much of a debate about that. Yeah, I mean, I think that in the big
10-8?
picture,
No?
nah, because of the work that was the rest of the round, I think that there was enough offensive attempt at least for it not to be a 10-8. Because I did on because CTE was saying the same thing, that he 10-8'd that round, and I went back and watched. If you were being very very hypercritical, then sure. I mean, there's definitely a warrant for it, but he was doing a little bit more effort than a 10-8 round would be to me. But again, that comes down to the individual. So if someone did 10-8 that round, it wouldn't be like the craziest thing in the world. But no, I mean, I think that 4-1, just standard scoring, 10-9s for all the rounds makes sense to me. And yeah, this was just a really good performance altogether. Did you see that RoboCop tried to hit the Scottish Twister at the very end of the fight?
I did see that, dude. I'm telling you, it's in layman's terms now. You see how to just put your arm around, and it's like, oh, it's that easy, huh?
Yeah, so a lot of fun stuff to be had in this fight, and a lot of really game situations on both sides. Now, you talk about RoboCop's speed. I mean, I think that what he lacks in the striking speed, I think that the power makes up for it, and the accuracy is also there. I mean, now granted, he wasn't able to drop him with his hands, so maybe that I don't know if there's going to be some problems with that going forward, as far as like not actually making those shots as effective. But I just think that Fluffy Hernandez got a good chin on him, man. I mean, that really is what it comes down to. I think a lot of those shots drop other opponents.
Dude, and that's I know you guys hated to see this loss from Fluffy, but the way that he tries to eat shots, it's a rude awakening coming one of these days when you guys get him against somebody that can really just take somebody out, that's willing to take his rank. I mean, dude, guys, he can't do it forever. And that's what sucks, because he has a really good wrestling style. Again, if he gets him up against the cage, pops out, blitz with the hands, drop low. If they start wrestling, come back out, blitz with the hand. Like, he could really be doing some good stuff if his game wasn't predicated on waiting for them to whoop my ass. I don't know. It's just unfortunate for Fluffy, because I don't hate the guy. I don't necessarily think he's my favorite fighter, but he's a cool dude. He's fine.
Well, and like to that point, I mean, I see Hydra asking, do you think that Fluffy should go to welterweight? I think that he's in an unfortunate position where going to welterweight's not going to help him, and moving up is not going to be possible for him. So, I mean, like, yeah, could he technically move up? Of course, it's not impossible in that sense, but I mean, possible as far as like making the same amount of success happen at the higher weight. I think that the game plan and the style that he has doesn't translate well to the higher weight. I think that he's going to have a lot of the same problems that he had with RoboCop at a higher weight. Big, tall guys who are not going to be as easily taken down. And then if they're not as easily taken down, you got to worry about the power that they have at the higher weight. So he's kind of between a rock and a hard place, I would say, because I don't think that he has tremendous success at welterweight. I don't think that he goes in there and starts racking up crazy wins against some of the higher guys in that division. I don't know, Chase, am I wrong on this?
I would definitely be leaning to agree with you. I mean, Fluffy doesn't necessarily have the build of somebody like he definitely, again, Fluffy, he's not necessarily the most in shape guy, I would say. When it comes to cutting down, he probably could get down there, but his physique isn't full of like muscle. Like, he's just going to be a flabby 70-pound guy, so I don't know. It is a weird position for him. I think moving up, honestly, I know Paulo Costa is a different example because he's just made of muscle or whatever. But like, people make a different career, and it may work out. I don't know. Maybe if Fluffy gets to a point where his hand speed is looking a little more otherworldly, the wrestling might open up a little more. But the wrestling is not going to be the problem. I think it's just, what does Fluffy want to do? Because it seems to be, he just wants to be in the mix. He's not necessarily determined for gold. And even when he got that opportunity, he wasn't necessarily like taking over the world with confidence. So I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see what ends up happening with Fluffy after this, because I mean, this is now multiple losses in a row for him, and a guy who, like you said, has never really seemed like he was really gunning for gold in a major way. He was kind of on track for it if he had put that effort in, but that came up short in that regard. So RoboCop takes over the position, and yeah, I mean, we'll see how the cards fall for both of them. But I do appreciate this fight. John Dong came into the watch along and had asked, do you think that this is a fight of the year contender? And I said, I don't think that it's necessarily of that caliber, but it certainly is to me in the honorable mention.
Oh, absolutely. No, this was a very good fight. All the back and forths. Fluffy never really feeling like he was out of the fight, which is it is something to be said, of course.
Absolutely. So that does take us to the end of this card. That's UFC Fight Night, Hernandez versus Rodriguez. Chase, after talking this thing all the way through, what do you think about it?
I thought this was a pretty good card. Obviously, there was a stale taste in my mouth about one particular fight, but everything all in all, I thought we had really good performances, and the streets will never forget Party Time West Schultz.
The Chase Parton street that he lives on will certainly never forget Party Time West Schultz. That's
And
true.
my neighbor is Robert Valentine, and his neighbor, and then West Schultz on the other side. Yeah, basically.
Next time you'll be the one that he talks to in the video chat, in the FaceTime.
That is very nice of him to call on.
Yeah, no, I like this card. I thought that this was a really fun one. A couple little minor, instances of some dips here and there, but nothing really major, and a lot of first round finishes on this card too. So this was a good one. I enjoyed this a lot. I thought that it was great. This is the first time in 7 years that Sacramento has had a fight night. So I was happy that Sacktown got themselves a good quality card out of this. So I was very happy with how this one played out overall.
You know what's crazy? You said Sacramento, right? Yeah. So
Right.
the Kings, whenever they win, they have a purple beam that they shoot up in the sky. We should have had that in the middle of the octagon at the end of this night, but whatever, that's fine.
Or like a silver one for RoboCop.
There we go. Yes, absolutely. No, we just do like the hollow projection, like the old Power Rangers thing. Like
Yes.
that's what we need for RoboCop next time.
True. There you go. Get on it. Get on it, UFC staff. We can make this happen.
But alas, we have to go over the points before we move on.
Yes. Run the numbers, Chase. How did each of us do this week, and how are we faring against each other?
This one is interesting because this is the moment I realized, like, I need to stop fucking around.
Uh-oh.
Picking West Schultz ain't gonna fucking get me nowhere. No, but it was apparent that Thinker is gonna start to smoke me if I keep doodling around. Okay, so out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 fights,
13.
I had gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, not looking great compared to Thinker, who got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Hey.
Wow.
All right. Yep. This was a pretty decent one for your boy this week. Not perfect, of course. We're getting closer there, hopefully. But yeah, we're shortening the gap, but there is still a gap. So Chase, how big is that gap now?
I don't even want to say, because if you end up beating me at the end of the year, I'm gonna be real upset. So the
Clawing
totals
my way back.
So the totals for right now, Chase has 218 points on the year, fights correct picked, and Thinker has 205 correct picks. And that is only a difference of 13. And I need to start locking in real quick. I need to make the big brain plays.
Up your game, brother. I mean, you're 13 points is still a pretty good sizable lead on me when it comes to fight predictions. Of course, we pick the same on certain fights, so it kind of plays out how it's going to play out. But there's always room. There's always room for your boy to come back. It's never too far away for me to reel it in.
Absolutely. This one will be good.
All right. Well, then let's get to it. We got a card coming up. This is in Shanghai, everybody. Make sure that you are aware of this. This is another 3 a.m. start time for this card over there. Yep. 3 a.m. for the prelims. Get ready. Get set. This is UFC Fight Night, Nurmagomedov versus Song. That being said, Umar Nurmagomedov, Song Yadong in the main event of this thing. I mean, I would say that this is probably not all. I mean, I don't know. This seems like some people might think that this is more of a competitive fight than I'm thinking that it is. What do you think about this, Chase?
Unfortunately, it's not going to be as competitive as people think. I think Song Yadong may have good wrestling. I've seen clips and they're like, "Oh, does Song have the wrestling that can beat Umar?" No. I mean, he may have wrestling that doesn't allow him to get bitched around for 25 minutes, but he's going to get taken down. He's going to get wrestled at some points. And in those sequences when he's getting wrestled, I mean, he's just not going to be able to have offense. And that's just going to be the key. Umar Nurmagomedov has the leg kicks on the outside, and he has the blitz inwards. Now the thing is this is 5 rounds. Do not sleep on a Song Yadong late finish. If Umar fucks around, has some stupid issue with his weight cut, or at least that's what he'll say afterwards, of course. Issue with the weight cut, in the fight he gasses out, he came in with an injury, whatever the case may be. Do not sleep on a Song Yadong finish, because this is, listen, all the time you see fights that are like, all right, yeah, he's gonna smoke him. It's the guy who's going to win. He's gonna fight for the belt in a few years, of course. That's dangerous. Song Yadong got nothing to lose, and I'm not saying he's got the tools to win, but if I can't envision it, that's just leaving me to be shocked even more. If he comes out here and gets a ninja choke or something, I'm gonna be, I don't know what to say, but that's just what great fighters are made of. So Song Yadong, what are you going to do about it? Like, Jesus.
It's sure. I mean, look, he's doing it in front of a favorable audience. This is one of those rare instances. A lot of these fighters from this region of the world, it's it's infrequent that we have these cards over there. We get them, a couple times a year, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, a lot of these times, a lot of these cards, fighters are fighting very far from their home countries here. Song Yadong doing it in Shanghai. I mean, this is going to be a crowd pop like you've never heard before if Song Yadong can find the win here. And I mean, what I will say about this fight is that really Song Yadong, the greatest asset that I think that he has is his stick and move ability. I mean, I think that this guy is very quick and very light on his feet. He utilizes his stature very well for a bantamweight. There are some bantamweights that we see that are a little bit more plotty, a little bit slower to the lateral movements and just getting on their bike and really making their opponent work for the shots. Song does a good job of that. Umar, underneath it all, though, in addition to the Dagestani base of, the wrestling and the Sambo, he does have some decent striking himself. So, I mean, I just hope that Umar does not get himself into situations where he's like, oh, well, I'll just go out there and just kick with him. You know what I mean? Because Umar really does favor those rangy kicks at times. That could end up being something that'll bite him in the ass. Throws those kicks, get a kick caught. Song comes back with some up top striking, making it more of a striker's affair than you'd expect it to be. I think that that's the clearest path that Song has to victory, because I do think that there actually is a path for him. I mean, it's just a very specific set of circumstances that could get him there. And he really, like you said, he has to drag this thing out. He can't be trying to headhunt early in this fight. He'll get his neck snatched easily at some earlier points. But if he can be defensively sound for 4 rounds, round 5 is where his opportunity will be. I just don't know if he's going to be able to do it for that long. I think that Umar will probably take a good number of those rounds earlier on. And if it goes to decision, that's going to be going to Umar, even with the favorability of the region. So with all of that said, I mean, I got to go with even with what you said, Chase, knowing that it's like, yeah, this is a dangerous thing to be like putting your eggs in the guy who you think is headed for gold at some point. But in this situation, and also having seen the strength of competition, we've seen Song Yadong lose to a lot of the best guys. We've seen Umar Nurmagomedov go toe to toe with the best, even if he came up short, and then still beat other people who are considered among the best. The strength of record goes to Umar. The skill set, I think, goes to Umar. Location is what Song has going for him, and maybe a solid game plan. That being said, Umar Nurmagomedov.
Umar it is.
All right, that's what you're going with as well?
Oh, yeah, for sure. No, this one, it's got to go Umar.
Yeah, I think it has to. All right, so we're in lockstep on that one. This one, this fight kills me right here, okay? This fight hurts my freaking heart. Yan Xiaonan versus Denise Gomes. Denise Gomes, who it feels like she has tricked us into thinking that she's a good fighter. And you hear me say that about certain fighters. I think it is applicable to Denise Gomes. However, I say that seeing that she is 12-3. That is a fine record. That's a record that would lead you to believe that she deserves a shot like this. But then you see that it's against Yan Xiaonan, a fighter who has been against the highest level of competition and came up short themselves. So it's like, is this a bad matchup? Sadly, it's not. And that's what hurts my heart here.
Yeah, this one, I don't know what to say, unfortunately. I mean, hey, shout out to Denise Gomes. She's on a 4-fight win streak right now. KO over Elise Reed. Oh my gosh, like, come on now. But the point is, I've not always said this, but I am now going to always say this. A Brazilian can go anywhere and they will just fuck anything up. But I can't believe that that's what this is going to happen. They know that Zhao Nan doesn't have many opportunities left to perform in China. And I think she is a pretty big draw, all considering. I mean, she's the co-main event of this. Outside of Wei Li, when it comes to the women's star power, I mean, she's definitely up there. She kind of slides under the radar, but she's popular over there. So kudos to them. So I think having an opportunity for her to win is big. She's got so much experience. 37 is old, but it's not the worst. So she's still prime, ready to be able to get a performance here. The difference is, though, I feel, and this is what I'm going to say, I feel like Zhao Nan, I've seen her spirit get broken a little bit before. In fights, I feel like I've seen her with Wei Li. I feel like I've seen her just, she puts up a good fight, but in her face, you can kind of tell like she doesn't necessarily think that she's going to win this. I don't want to see any of that here. I don't want to see her. I don't want to see this is the end of my career if I don't win this on my face kind of deal. I need her to go out here and beat Denise Gomes and not let Denise Gomes gain confidence walking her down. Because Denise Gomes, again, she has this build of these standard Brazilian troll-like women that come. The troll is in hobbit size. Let me say it that way. They can be very attractive. Denise Gomes, beautiful. When it comes to them, they have powerful, stocky builds that they could just listen. 5'2" with a 63-inch reach. She's just a fire hydrant. She's just going to go out there and walk forward and try to throw bombs. Is Zhao Nan going to be able to play the outside and get it done? I mean, if you guys remember, Zhao Nan is fucking jacked. This girl she's built like somebody who's in the military. Like she has got good size, good strength, whatever you want to say, but I have definitely seen her in moments where she wasn't utilizing all of what I know she is capable of. Do I want to see Denise Gomes be the one that fucking proves me that like Zhao Nan is not as good as she maybe once was or maybe ever was? I hope to God not. I hope to God not. But I'm gonna go with Zhao Nan anyways because I really do appreciate her. She is really good, and there's no reason for her to lose in her hometown like this or home city, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also going Zhao Nan mostly because I don't think that Denise Gomes is a fighter of her caliber, but that is what concerns me when I've seen Yan Zhao Nan have such problems against fighters that I've been like, you shouldn't have this level of problem against, I mean, like she's had competitive fights where I'm like, you should be the better fighter. There was a time where I really thought that she was champion material, So I mean, like that really does kind of play a big factor in here. And I agree with you entirely that like she needs to come into this fight like with a mentality to win because she will get walked down if that's not the case. I hope that she's going for level changes. Denise Gomes not something you got to worry about when it comes to that. She's a pure striker. So she's, if you get her down, you could probably lay on her for at least a round. So you'd be able to pick up an easy round that way. There are methods to victory here left and right for Yan Zhao Nan if she has the confidence to do it. I hope that the hometown crowd gives her that confidence in addition to her already having it. So I'm going to also go with Yan Zhao Nan, but I really, if Denise Gomes pulls the upset off here, then it probably should be a big signal to Yan Zhao Nan that, 37 is wearing a little harder on her than you'd like it to be. And maybe it's time to start thinking about what the next move is. Cause I mean, she only fights in China now, right? I mean, like basically she fought on Macau, I believe. That was the last time I'm pretty sure she fought. So it's like, she's kind of maybe already sort of trending in that direction, but this is a fight that it should be winnable for her. If it's not winnable, there are bigger problems at play.
You know how much of a casual you are? She fought in Miami, Florida. Think about that, thinker, on Diego Lopez and Volkanovski. Won.
Who did she fight?
Virna Jandiroba.
Oh, and she lost that fight, didn't she?
And she did lose that fight.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Virna's a much bigger test than she is. Okay, well, fair enough. Then I'll take that back. Casual St. James. I'll take that on me.
Yan Zhao Nan has a knockout over Jessica Andrade, who is built exactly like Denise Gomes. Just copy paste. Let's pray for the best here, guys.
Yeah, I mean, Denise Gomes, she'll try to work the body. She'll kick a lot, to try to keep distance. I mean, they're just, it seems like a striker's game plan that just is not fully formed with her, and it's worked for her against lower level competition. I got to believe that Yan Zhao Nan is still of that caliber to not let that work.
Absolutely. Let's go Yan Zhao Nan.
I like it. All right, let's do it. Moving on down the line here, Ariki Long is fighting Kai Asakura. Wow. This is an interesting one. I mean, Ariki Long, a dude who is, about, I think that I've heard him described as your standard of bantamweight, like the middle of the pack at bantamweight of ranked fighters. This is what you should be looking for is Ariki Long right there as the median. Kai Asakura, a guy who had a pretty rocky start to things, but got a big knockout in his last fight. Does he knock out Ariki Long? That's the big question.
Well, the Mongolian murderer is back, of course, Ariki Lang, and he's going against my boy Kai Asakura. Now, the thing is that Ariki Lang, this dude's head is block shaped. It is stern, it is firm, and no Diddy, of course, but Kai Asakura is gonna be able to get this one done, I think. I'm hoping that we brought him to the UFC for good reason, and they actually they do like him, is what I would say, because there's been plenty of people that come over and we run him right into the dirt because we don't give a shit. Buchecha, get him out of here. Get him knocked out by Ryan Spann. Send him on his way. Kaya Sakura, though, it does feel like they're putting a little more stock into him. They want him to succeed. They're giving him opportunities that are very winnable for him. It's just his last knockout against fucking Cameron Smotherman. Are you giving it? Give me a fucking break. Like Kaya Sakura has actually something to prove here. Does Japan bring that power when it comes to the striking? Ariki Long has 13 losses, guys. This dude has been around and he has definitely lost, but he's only been knocked out 2 different times. So if you want to believe that he's going to be able to stand the test of time, that is good to hear. But I don't know if you can tell me what Ariki Lang is going to do to beat Kai Asakura on the feet is the deal. I
Oh,
think. Go ahead.
I'll tell you what he can do. I think that he can keep distance is what he can do. That's one of his biggest strengths. I mean, like this guy is a really really solid ranged fighter. Like he's a dude that he utilizes movement he's not overly dynamic in his movement, but what he does is he keeps just enough distance so that he can strike and his opponents can't. And I think that that's a big deal here. I mean, that they're saying that the reach is the same. It doesn't feel like that might be accurate. I don't know if maybe the leg length might be a little bit more on Ariki Long's side. I mean, he is. There's again like I does. Maybe Kai Sakura is just bigger than I give him credit for. If they're saying he's 5'8" and Ariki Long's 5'7", I don't know if that necessarily tracks in my mind. But I think that that's the method to victory for Ariki Long here is keep the distance, stay out of the way of the power. If he gets hit, get back out of the range again, and then maybe go for the level changes because we have seen Asakura have problems with those.
Yeah, so I mean, this one I think is pretty easy, just because I think Kyle Sakura has a bright future ahead of me, or ahead of me and him. So I'm obviously going to take him when it comes to this. I don't think Riki Lang has ever proven to me that he's somebody that I need to be on the lookout for. He's got a cool nickname, and he knocked out Cody Gibson in 20 seconds flat. So I mean, good on him. But I think Kyle Sakura is just on another level when it comes to where he could be and where he's going to be. So you're going to take a Riki Lang?
I am going to take Ariki. Like, I mean,
Wow.
I'm still skeptical of Kai Asakura. I mean, look, yeah, like you said, a knockout of Cameron Smotherman does not really change my perception when the losses are to Tim Elliott, and then the champ, of course, makes sense. But like, I mean, the Tim Elliott is an unorthodox mover and an unorthodox striker as well. Maybe Ariki Lang is not all of that, but he is certainly savvy enough on his feet to navigate a fight with a power striker. And if he's not been knocked out that many times, even if he gets touched a couple times, I think he has better shots of actually being the more well-rounded mixed martial artist. I need to see more out of Asakura, to be
No,
perfectly honest,
I absolutely agree, but I think this might be an opportunity for it, but I think this will just be a striker's affair if I had to guess.
And look, this will be a good example of the more that I need to see. So if he comes in here and puts on a beautiful masterclass performance, is able to close that distance that I'm talking about, maybe I change my perception after this one.
There's a song out there called "The Less I Know, the Better." Think on that one, thinker. Kai Asakura is going to let you know some great stuff on Saturday.
Okay, hey, I know he did very great things in another promotion that has some pretty stiff competition in it. So come over here and break the dude's jaw in half, and then you'll certainly change my mind very quickly.
Absolutely.
All right, Alex Perez is fighting Sumadarji. This is the rematch of this fight, right?
Yes, and that's why I think it is interesting that we have the ability to on hand go back and see who we both picked the first time around. And I would like you guys to know, it's just subtle foreshadowing. This is important. This is important to know who we both picked. So we both picked Sumer Darji to win this in the first fight. And I think that was a very good option because he was whooping his ass. But um, if you would like to stay with that pick, that is completely up to you. However, I am of the belief that Alex Perez
Is it going to
was a
come out here and fucking go really have a point to prove now? That's where you're going
well,
with this?
not necessarily a point to prove. I think if you are of the assumption that Alex Perez is part of a team that already had the idea of doing the bucket throw up thing to get a no contest, then you would also believe that they did that preemptively in case they need to pull a no contest. If they pulled that card, I'm going to go ahead and say that Alex Perez has a new game plan this time around. It's the same thing with Tom Aspinall. It's like, don't fight a different way the second time. Don't come back with a rematch because you have a new game plan because the first one got you busted up. Like Alex Perez, I truly don't think he's going to try to fight the exact same way. I think he saw what didn't work, had his opportunity to, and I'm not saying he did or didn't, but that's what it could be. And we're going to get a match right now where it's going to be a completely different dynamic. Alex Perez is going to do something completely different than he did the first time. And Sumer Darji, I don't know, just looking at him right here, he doesn't look like too much of a thinker, bro. He don't look like he's going to put the two and two together. He's not going to be like, yeah, he's fucking with me now. Like, no, he's going to go out there and think we're going to strike, and I'm just going to stand at range and pop him up like I did the first time. But Alex Perez, they do this every time, by the way. They say he's a grappler. It is not true.
Right.
But maybe this fight I will understand that he's a grappler. I don't know.
Well, and I don't know if I necessarily go with all of the bucket pull on this. Of course, if you recall, this is the fight that got the no contest because Sumidarji low blowed Alex Perez and then he threw up in the bucket and they called the fight. I don't know if they're going to necessarily pull that maneuver again or any of that kind of stuff to have in the back pocket, but I do agree with you on the idea that it is an interesting dynamic having already fought a round and a half with a person to have that frame of reference, make the adjustments and come back. I mean, you do make a good point that he might have a new game plan based on what he already saw in that fight. Will it be able to overcome Sumidarji and make it his fight? I'm gonna stick with the gun. Sumidarji was touching him up, bro. I mean, Perez is one of those guys that it's like, I feel like there's always like flecks of something that'll give you the impression that there's more to him. And then he just doesn't continue that. Like, he'll give you that impression every once in a while. Oh man, that was a really nice combination, man. If he can do that consistently, he'll really be something. And then he just doesn't. So Sumidarji, I just think a little bit more consistent, I want to say. And for that reason, I mean, unless there is some kind of seismic shift, Perez comes in and really does lean on that grappling that they always talk about. Maybe that's going to be the method to victory here. But until I see it, I'm China heavy on this one. I'm going with Sumidarji.
All right, I'm going to go with my boy Alex Perez because I think that is, at the end of the day, he's the type of fighter that he's going to do what it takes to win. He can't afford many losses anymore in his career, He's got to step it up, and he definitely showed me some. He showed me some. He went out of his way to do something different. So I give it to him on this one.
Gamesmanship at its finest.
There you go.
Perhaps. All right. Well, next up here,
Look at this dude's record.
Oh yeah, Lucy. Yeah, we've got C. Liu versus Levi Rodriguez Jr. Now, yes, Lucy is 3-1. Levi Rodriguez Jr. is 5-1. But Levi Rodriguez Jr. is the dude who just lost to Felipe Franco. He fucking sucks. I do not like this guy. This guy is a dude who I thought that he was not great in his fight. He also popped before as well. He's a steroid cheat on top of it all. There is very little to go off of with this guy that's positive as far as I'm concerned. Now, of course, on the other side, Lucy is a dude who he is, like I said, he's 3-1. He's 1-1 in his last two. So he got knocked out one time at something called Happy Elephant MMA. That's nice. Interesting. but that's his only loss there. And the other wins have all been in WLF MMA. So he's going up against a bunch of regional guys. This is a tough one to be siding with the hometown guy with very little experience over a Brazilian, even if the Brazilian sucks.
I think what you see as sucks for a 5-1 fighter, I do believe that is just a little inexperienced, a little green. He is a Muay Thai black belt, by the way. So Levi Rodriguez, as much as you want to believe that he may not be great, I will say one thing. One, a Brazilian can go anywhere on this earth and they can win a fight, whether they've been on sleep or not. This guy, Levi Rodriguez, does have a little tenacity in him, though. I mean, he's going against a 6'5" Chinese guy, by the way. This is actually almost unheard of. Yao Ming is like only taller than him. But
Right.
Levi Rodriguez has that level of, I will just go in there and throw punches. Like, I will just go fight until the ref pulls you off, and I still don't think that I'm done fight. Like, I don't know if I can say that Lucy, like, are we serious? Like, come on, Lucy, see Lu, like, I cannot believe that that's what this dude can bring because I haven't seen it. Obviously he's a guy who will go get finishes. He's been finished and he's got a finish or two on his record. But Levi Rodriguez, um, this dude genuinely, he looked fine against Felipe Franco. And Felipe Franco is good. Levi Rodriguez just got his ass handed to him. I just don't think that's what's going to happen against Silu.
I am going to go with Levi Rodriguez Jr. because he has been in the promotion. We've seen more out of him. We don't know anything about Liu C, aside from what I just said, which is not, again, regional guys, the competition level is different. You don't have the frame of reference from the rest of the world. And the one guy that he did lose to was not a regional guy as well. So, that does not fare well to me, I would say, based on, coming in fresh, even as a much taller fighter. But I am not happy about this. And I don't understand why they are coddling baby Huey over here. But for whatever reason they are with potentially a layup, maybe it'll be a crazy, contender that is coming out of nowhere in Liu C. But until I see it, I got to go with the frame of reference that we have. So Rodriguez, at least sound enough to potentially win a fight. I'll believe it when I actually see it.
Yeah. I mean, he beat Freddie Vidal. So, I mean, he's pretty experienced.
Oh, well, I mean, say no more, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so Levi Rodriguez it is, as much as it pains me. All right, and look who we have here. Our dude Bilal Hassan is making his debut in Shanghai, and he is going up against a man named Nielsen Rojas. Now, is Nielsen Rojas, who is 9-0, by the way, this is a dude who is coming in fresh, it looks like. Yeah, he's coming in from Inca FC. This is a Peruvian guy. Or no, he's Chilean, but he's fought in Inca in Peru. So they do a lot of that. The Chileans fight in Peru often. But yes, he's fought in FFC. He fought in Inca, and that seems to be the majority of it. A dude who is unbeaten at 9-0, going up against Bilal Hassan, who was a world ender on the Contender Series chase. How do you think this goes down?
Well, I would love to believe that we have a South American who's going to prove that Latino chin prevails. On the other hand, he's 9-0. If maybe he was 9-1, 9-2, I'd be like, okay, this dude is, he's taking a punch for sure. Bilal Hassan has, I'm not saying he's got, nukes for hands. He does have power, but he's got a level of creativity that catches people off guard. And I think he can also have a level of, what Manel Cap does to people often is he big brothers them, he spooks them, he gets them off the rhythm. I think Bilal Hassan has the ability to do that. I think the Rojas kid, all credit to him for taking the fight. I think he'll get hit, and I'm not positive that he'll be getting back up. I'm just gonna say that. I mean, this is somebody they're trying to build the next flyweight knockout artist. They're gonna give him somebody that can get knocked out, whether the record says it or not. It's just how it goes.
Fair. I mean, he does have a lot of knockouts of his own on his record, but I mean, you are correct. They do like Bilal Hassan. He made a big splash on the Contender Series. I'm seeing Carlos coming in the chat saying that Nilsson is actually Peruvian and not Chilean, so maybe ESPN has their facts wrong here on this page. But either way, Peru, Chile. I mean, Latino chin is certainly the conventional thought when it comes to that. But I also do agree with the idea that they're trying to build Bilal Hassan. They know that he's a personality, he's moonwalk in the cage again, do his little Michael Jackson moves. And also Indonesia, an underrepresented, region of the world, even though he is an American, God damn it. We've talked about this before. He is Hawaiian. But I kind of agree with that as the thought is that they're, with 9-0 versus 9-0, and a guy who's coming in out of Inca and FFC, I think that they want Bilal Hassan to succeed here. it would be surprising that they're going to put him up against a dude who is going to go and just upset him like crazy after also jumping the Contender Series when he just made a huge name for himself and a huge splash on the Contender Series. It just doesn't add up to me as to like that being the matchmaking mindset. So again, this is like Contender Series Part 2 though. So I mean, you know, this is a guy that has not fought in the UFC before. He was not on the Contender Series. He's jumping the line. Can Bilal Hassan replicate that? We'll find out. Maybe it'll be more of a competitive fight since this guy does have a lot of knockouts on the record. I've seen Bilal Hassan. I have not seen Nilson Rojas. Got to go with Bilal Hassan.
All right, I'm also taking Bilal Hassan.
Yeah, I mean, again, just by the thought processes, it makes more sense. But I will be rooting for my Peruvian king because you know how much I got love for Peru.
Yeah.
All right, going on down the line here, your featured prelim. This is an interesting one. This is Namsrai Batbayar versus Andre Lima. This would, on paper, be a tremendous mismatch if we didn't just see Andre Lima get fucking dog walked in the stupidest way, himself getting walked. Like, I mean, he walked himself basically in that last fight.
You know what's crazy about that is when I saw his name pop up here and I'm looking at it, I'm like, you know what his last recent performance reminded me of? Chris Padilla. Just walks around with this fear of Muay Thai that he's some god when it comes to it and evidently doesn't end up using it. Just walks around the entire matchup, gets walked around by Kevin Borjas. Good on him. Great on him.
Yeah, but who won their fight though?
Yeah, but the difference is, well, I mean, in my opinion, different stuff, different topic. The thing is, Andre Lima didn't necessarily seem that losing his undefeated record meant anything. He took his loss very well, which in this context was a horrible thing. You know, oftentimes it's like, man, you got to learn how to, suck it up, take your loss like a man. It's like, brother, Andre Lima was an undefeated prospect looking like one of the better ones and just randomly lost his undefeated record to a guy on a 4-fight losing streak. And he was okay with it. Like, are we fucking for real, brother? Like, yeah. So I can't say that he's going to come in here motivated to go ahead and put on a show because he could go out here and lose again and he'll get on Twitter and say, ha ha ha, fuck you guys for losing your parlays. It's like, brother, you're an idiot. Like, you're just an idiot. So I don't know. That's just how I feel.
Well, I mean, that's the Andre Lima side of things, and you can talk about the mentality. I want to talk a little bit about Bat Bayar over here. This dude has finished every win. All of his, he's got 10 victories. He's 10-1 every fight he has finished, and the only time that he has lost was a rear naked choke submission to Naim Jurgel, Tumen Dembrel. So that's another guy who's making a little bit of a name for himself Mongolian-wise in the organization. This is a killer be killed fighter over here. Andre Lima did not show any level of killer instinct in his last fight. I mean, this would seem to be a little bit of a major upset if this does end up going Batbayar's way. But I mean, again, you go with what's working and what's not working. I mean, this is a dude coming off road to UFC. So this level of competition should, in theory, be a huge jump. But if Andre Lima is going to be a statue out there, is it that big of a jump at all?
No, I don't think so. And I actually think, aside from what I believe his mentality is, if I have to look at it on paper of what I believe that the two capabilities are, aside from the better man showing up on the night, I think Andre Lima, it should show levels to this. I mean, he is a UFC flyweight, of course. He's competed against, some very good people. And, the last performance against Borjas hopefully is an eye-opener that he cannot just dance around for 3 rounds. I think, Muay Thai threat, hopefully we get to see just a good showcase. And I think Batbayar, hopefully, if I were to be a betting man, is going to lose very early in the fight, and I think Andre Lima is going to catch him and submit him. That's what I would say.
I too am going to go with Andre Lima, but I would really, really like to see Batbayar pull this upset off, man. I think that it would be awesome. And because it's like a fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me kind of situation here. If Andre Lima comes out fighting the way that he fought last fight, it is going to be a perceptional change. Remember when we were talking about Joel Alvarez and how much he needed that last win to really change the perception and like make it known that he is like where he needs to be? Andre
Yeah.
Lima is in that exact position to me right now. For me personally, not, organization wise might be different, but for how I look at him, if he comes out and fights like he did against Kevin Borjas, then it's going to be a complete paradigm shift is how I look at him. Because Bot Bayar is a dude who does have submissions on the record. He might be able to Mongolian octopus this guy, get him down, suck him to the ground. Maybe this becomes a different type of fight. So again, just based on what we know and a dude coming off of Road to UFC, I will go with the conventional wisdom here and think that Andre Lima is going to win this fight. But if he pulls off the upset, this Bot Bayar, I think it's going to be a big, big difference in how I'm looking at both fighters after this fight.
Absolutely. So Andre Lima, it is.
Yeah, again, begrudgingly on this one.
Yeah.
All right. Thereafter, though, the aforementioned Kevin Borjas, he is fighting Ray Saruya. Ray Saruya, who is another guy I was a little bit skeptical of, but has really seemed to come into his own very much so in the last fight. Kevin Borjas, a guy who I've always thought was 1 foot away from, being on the chopping block at times. Kevin Borjas is really he's the person that started my perception of the Peruvians being a little bit lacking in the UFC. That has changed, thankfully, and I'm very happy about that because I got love for Peru. But this seems to be a step too far in Ray Saruya. I doubt that Kevin Borjas is going to be able to offer much of a fight to Saruya in this one.
No, I also agree that Ray should be able to get this one done. Kevin Borjas, in theory, he's supposed to lose to everybody. They're just feeding him on to these guys. And Ray is not necessarily the best when it comes to the striking, but I definitely think he looked more leveled up in his last performance. It looks as if he is, finally, not finally, like he needed to get around to it, but like it looks as if he is in the prime at 24. Listen, at 24, this dude is in crazy shape. I think he is as good as it's probably going to get physique wise. I think he just really needs to hone in on the striking. The wrestling is solid. The grappling is great, but it's mixing in it's getting the striking to the grappling. It's getting the grappling back to the striking. These are the things that not just Ray Saruya, but a lot of Japanese fighters, they have issues mixing the martial arts. They are very great when it comes to martial arts. Mixing the martial arts is where they just struggle, and it sucks sometimes because they're very talented. Tatsuro Taira is another great example. He's got the grappling, but just didn't mix in any striking with the grappling to make it more of a threat. So Ray Saruya is obviously going to walk through, get this one done easily, but people are they're gonna be like, oh yeah, Kevin Borjas is not good. Like, yeah, we knew that. So
yeah, and it hurts my heart because I know that Carlos is hanging out with us, and I hate to be picking against Peru so consistently, but Kevin Borjas is a little bit of an easier one in that regard. And again, getting a layup victory over Andre Lima, who just seemed very off, does not really change the perception of where he was trending before that fight. So that reason alone is why I'm going to go with Ray Saruya here. But Kevin Borjas has an opportunity to change my mind, perhaps. Again, I was a little bit skeptical of Saruya, so if he can come in here and really utilize his movement like he did in his last fight, maybe stick and move and not get caught up in his clutches, then there is potentially a path to victory. But on paper, I'm going Ray Saruya.
Hell yeah.
All right. Next up is Jack Jenkins versus Sean Woodson. Woodson hitting a little bit of a skid, but not out of the game, I would hope. And Jack Jenkins feels like has never really fully lived up to the Australian potential, I want to say. Jack Jenkins kind of came in on that Quillen Salkeld wave, or like right before that, perhaps. And was maybe going to be one of these guys. I see you, Carlos. Maybe going to be one of these guys that was going to, be on the upswing of that. But I don't think he ever really lived up to that,
What's crazy is I think this fight is going to be the perfect example of Jack Jenkins living up to the Aussie expectations. He's just going to get battered. He's just going to get battered in this fight. He's going to get sniped by Sean Woodson. Sean Woodson, I'm surprised it's taken so long for us to see him again, because the last performance that he had wasn't even a clean finish. It was an early stoppage, and he didn't even deserve to have that happen to him. Sean Woodson is elite at what he does. It may not look pretty, but he's got a physique that is different than everybody else's. It's very hard to train for somebody like him. He doesn't get taken down very often. He gets the fight back to the feet, and he has boxing that is very, very good. He mixes in a lot more kicks now, which I think is very beneficial to his game. But the last fight was just a hiccup. We don't really need anything to worry about. The rear view mirror, we ripped that shit off. Jack Jenkins is going to get beat up. I think this is an easy call. This is actually one of the more confident picks that I have. Sean Woodson, guys, is very, very good, and I hope you guys know.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it is kind of funny. It's like the Australian expectation. He will live up to that, but unfortunately, that expectation is Jamie Malarkey. So
Yes.
yeah, no, everything you said is absolutely correct about Sean Woodson. It's unfortunate that that last fight played out how it did, because I mean he was on such a nice surging upswing. Hopefully that is just a blip on the radar for him, because I do think that there's a lot better for him going forward. He's a 6'2" featherweight. I mean, this dude is massive. He uses his length very effectively, and like you said, he's a boxer. This guy used to be a heavyweight, cut all the way down to featherweight, and is having success there. I mean, he is really a total package kind of fighter in a lot of ways, and a dude who's very tricky to get your hands on. I mean, I think that Jack Jenkins' best opportunity is going to be to try to get him to the ground, but Sean Woodson makes that a very tall order, no pun intended with him. So that being said, yeah, I think that this is probably going to be a pretty solid win for Sean Woodson, and one that's going to get the crowd going. So hopefully this will be Sean Woodson by finish.
I agree. Hopefully that is true. But what I would say to this point, and before we move on, Sean Woodson shows what he showed what it was like, what dedication looks like. If Steven Asplin had any sort of willpower, he'd look like this. He'd look just like that right now. Do it, Steven. Jesus.
You heard the man, Stephen Asplund. Look like that.
Yeah.
Shaved head and all.
D-
All right. Fair enough. All right, let's keep it moving here. Oh, everybody's favorite is back. Wow. Who the heck is this guy now? Okay, so it's Zhao Long, the meme lord himself. Zhao Long is fighting Francisco Nuzzi out of Italy. He's an Italian fighter. He is 11-2. Zhao Long, of course, is 27-11. Of course, one of those Chinese records that you know so well. Newsy is a dude who is coming off of a no contest in his last fight. He was in Cage Warriors for that. And before that, he was a PFL fighter. So all of those things being what they are, Chase, Italian, PFL, no contest in the last fight. What do you make of all this?
Well, I think key to note is that Zhao Long is actually an exciting fighter, and he does have like that star power to him. I think the Chinese fans probably resonate very well with this dude. I mean, he does the point to the ground. He wants to fight. Yeah, exactly. And so he's a fun fighter, and I think it's great. So they clearly would like to have him win in China. That's obviously a goal. Let's have a big coming out party. So yeah, let's give him some random Italian guy. Like that seems like an easy fucking finish. No, I mean the only thing that you can tell from our Italian buddy's profile. First off, his nickname is Berserker. We'll see how that lives up for him. But the also other thing is he has a split decision win against Bernardo Sopaj. So, does that lead you to believe that he is good enough to get a win in the UFC, or would you agree that Bernardo Sopaj is not very good and split decision beating him probably doesn't mean much?
I mean, it was a while ago, right? It's in 2021, so I think that Bernardo Sopai has evolved a little bit past that. And really, I mean, the record almost is a little bit secondary to me. I mean, he does have 5 knockouts on the record. He's been submitted twice. He's got three submissions on his record himself. All of that again kind of goes out the window. Strength of competition not there for him based on where he's coming out of, and I hate to say this, Chase. I don't know if you do know this, but I do have Italian heritage myself. So I say this with all love and respect to the Italian people. But when we talk about emerging markets, still, Italy comes to mind as one of the weakest in Europe. If you really think about the Italian fighters that we have seen, the dude who fought Zucchini, who fought Paddy Pimblett in his debut, easy
Literally
walk.
named after a vegetable. Like, come on, bro.
Meant to be chopped and diced. That is exactly what happened there. I mean, there's that. There's I mean, Marvin Vittori sticks out in your mind as one of the better examples, but that should tell you something. I mean, like we've seen a couple of guys that have had minor little bits of success, and that's as best as they have gotten. Italy needs to get on the come up when it comes to MMA. They are not there yet. China has had a far head start on them. I think that Zhao Long is the wiser choice out of these two.
You forgot Mikey Musumeci, the Darth Rigatoni. There you go.
I mean, yeah, different. We're going to see how he does in MMA when he actually makes his debut. But BJJ, this is not. So, I don't think you can really class it exactly the same.
They come from the Coliseum area, and they don't have any like fighters like that are like true about this shit right now. It's kind of weird, isn't it?
I mean, they're like Spartan fighters, man. I mean, they're like, they got the big helmets and the spears and stuff. They ain't fighting with the hands. I mean, we got to get some guys out there who are actually throwing fists. We need to get the people that compete in the Calcio Storico to be in the goddamn UFC. That is what we need. I don't know if Francisco Nuzzi has been out there slanging for Rossi or Bianchini, but this dude, unless he is one of those guys, I do not have high hopes for him in this fight.
Absolutely not.
All right, so you're going Zhao Long as well, then?
I'm going Xiao Long, yeah, for sure.
All right. Moving on down the line here, we've got Lawrence Louis. Lawrence
Hmm.
Liu versus Hector Santiago. So we've got a guy from New Zealand, but has Asian heritage, going up against Hector Santiago from Brazil. Liu is 8-1, and Hector Santiago is 6-1.
Yeah, so I don't I saw the name and I remember him, but I can't really remember how his performance went. I mean, he got a split decision win in his UFC debut against Solarangbo.
Yeah,
Um,
Sulan Rungbo. I remember the name, but I do not. Yeah, it's split decision. So yeah, I also don't remember how that fight fully played out myself. He is a road to the UFC guy. This Liu.
but he is going up against a Brazilian guy who is no named, no picture, Hector Santiago. And will a Brazilian walk into China and do his bidding? It does happen. It does happen, but it doesn't always happen. So what I would like to say is, this dude's got a win over Thiago Santos. By the way, let's see. Is this the same? This is not the same Thiago
Yeah, I was gonna say
Santos.
that can't be the same Thiago Santos. This is bantamweight.
He's got a win over a Nogueira as well. So Paulo
Probably also
Nogueira.
not. Yeah, yeah, probably not. Also not the same.
But either way, so I'm going to take Lawrence just because we've seen him already, and a split decision win. That means he potentially dogged it out. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a close. It was a close fight, so he at least had to either make it close or he was leading and the other person made it close. So I like that idea. A Brazilian guy who's faced all the relatives that nobody cares about. I'm not going to say that he's going to go ahead and get it done.
Yeah, this Brazilian dude has his most recent performance is it's a knockout win, but it was in Money Moicano MMA 1. This is in our dude Renato Moicano's promotion. So, level of competition in there, is that up to the same standards as the road to UFC? I mean, I don't know if that necessarily tracks. And then the other promotions, I mean, he's got one in Jungle Fight, and then Thunder Fight is his other two major promotion that he's done multiple fights in. So, again, this is just a need more information kind of fight. I will also take Lawrence in this one, just off of the fact of having seen him before. In fact, what I will do after this very show is I'm going to go back and listen to our episode where we reviewed his fight, because I
Mm,
believe that was one that we did review. I do remember the name, so I think we talked about that fight. So I'm gonna have to go back and find that one.
hell yeah, no, that'll be a good one to listen to. I'm pretty sure I was pretty positive on him, but I can't be too sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like that maybe we had positive things to say about the fight in general, or maybe it was the other way. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm vacillating now a little bit. I'm waffling, but either way, I'll stick with my guns. I will also go with our dude from New Zealand.
hell yeah.
All right. I cannot believe they rebooked her, but they did. Jingnan Jiang. Zhang Jinnan is back, our former one championship title holder. She is going up against the psycho Julia Pilastri. This would seem to be such a slam dunk on the Pilastri side. I don't know how this is happening based on her last performance, but of course, Julia Pilastri is not Angela Hill. So, Chase, do you think that Jingnan Jiang is going to have a better time this go around?
Well, I think it is interesting because I had the Angela Hill pick on this one. If you recall, I took Angela Hill and I actually had her by TKO, and she almost did, but she, Miss Zhang is very tough, and I give her credit. We do believe that potentially maybe she hurt her hand in the last performance, is why it wasn't necessarily as clean as it could be. But the difference is Angela Hill wasn't able to push for that finish, or she didn't, and she didn't get it. Whatever you want to say. So Zhang at least feels safe in that regard. Like, oh, I lasted with Angela Hill, overkill Hill, I lasted. But you also have to remember that Pilastri is a third round kind of stalker. She goes in this third round and that's when she's ready to start finishing fights, and it's always ends up being just a little too late. If you even remember her last performance where against Carolina or whatever, this was a couple maybe now ago. She had her on the verge of being finished, but yet just like continue to just play with her food too much. And I think we're going to get into the same performance with Miss Zhang, where I think she's going to do some good stuff. And I think the second round, we may see her start to slow down. I think she's going to win 1 and 2 because Pilastri is just not going to be active enough. Third round, we see Pilastri make a big push for a finish, and she just doesn't get it. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that does track. I mean, there was one fight after the fight
Talita
with
Alencar.
Talita Alencar. Now, I mean, this is Pilastri is a checkerboard in her last 5. She is 2-3 in her last 5, so this is not great. But I do think that this is the exact level of competition based on what we saw in Jiang's last fight that gets Julia Pilastri back on the other side of the checkerboard here. I mean, Jingnan Jiang really was almost baffling in her performance to an extent. She has this very herky jerky style that I guess was effective against one championship level competition, but was so roundly defeated by Angela Hill that I think that there's a lot of potential for Pilastri to get the exact kind of fight she wants out of this. Now, if it was a hand injury and she comes back with a different game plan, is more effective that way, maybe that turns this into a different conversation. But again, based on what we saw with UFC level competition, now, again, Pilastri is not as good as Angela Hill, but she is certainly game, and she is definitely a fighter who will go for the entirety of the fight. She's bell to bell. So that being said, I got to stick with the guns on Julia Pilastri here. I think that there's better for Julia Pilastri in the future. She just needs to improve certain areas a little bit, and I think that she can go on a better streak than these last 5 would lead you to believe.
Oh, this one will be a fun fight. I actually really enjoy this one. I think you are sleeping heavy on Miss Zhang. She's clearly got striking, and it's going to be fun to actually see her get to have moments where it works. I think Angela Hill is just it's a hard matchup if you have an awkward style. She's very technical and she's just very persistent. So
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a more even matchup, I would say, skill wise. But even with that, I think that Julia Pilastri brings a little bit of an intensity that Jingnan Zhang like wants you to believe that she has, but hasn't shown me that she actually possesses in an actionable way.
yeah, 100%.
All right, and that brings us to our first fight of the evening, and our dude Ding is back, baby. Meng Ding is back, and he is going up against Canada's own Cameron Nelson. Cameron Nelson, folks. He is 7-1. Ding Meng, of course, a dude who has 45 professional fights. He is 35-10. Chase, what do you think about this? Chase, did I lose you?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yes, we were cutting out for a second. I was waiting for you to finish, hopefully trying to pick up right where the lag was ending. But yes, I'm like Ding Meng, of course. This is my guy. I really appreciated the performance that he had last time. He went up against the Jose Enrique guy, who was just kind of a freak at welterweight. It was for him, and Ding Meng's a finisher. I think Cameron Nelson, Canadian guy, all the hope in the world to you. But brother, I think Ding Meng is here to make fireworks on that first fucking fight. Fireworks come from China, if I'm not mistaken. And Ding is about to prove to you guys that that is true.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, I'm with that. I mean, this dude Cameron Nelson, again, 7-1. He's coming out of Fight League Atlantic. Yeah, not a promotion that I've really ever even experienced. Maybe one that we'll have to try to see if we can find a broadcast of for a watch along at some point, but not familiar with it. Strength of he was a champion in that promotion, so credit to him there. But being a champion of a promotion that is not one of the majors is kind of skipping the line doesn't really track as well to me. And as you say, I mean, this is a Chinese person in China. They're wanting to start this card off with a bang for the Chinese crowd. Give me Ding Meng by knockout.
Nice, I love it. I love the method of victory on that one, of course.
And I love the acknowledgement that fireworks do indeed come from China. That is absolutely true.
Thank you, chat. Recognize.
All right. Well, we will find out. Those are the predictions, but we will find out how correct or incorrect we are. I think we picked a couple of them that's a lot of them the same. So this is going to be one that, we'll see if both of us are correct, both of us are wrong. There's a couple that are different. We'll find out together if we are right or wrong when we do our individual watch alongs of this card on Saturday early in the morning, 3:00 a.m. for the prelims. You can find me watching those with my coffee cup in hand at youtube.com/@YamaShow. And Chase, I know that you can tell them where they can find you.
Of course, youtube.com/@CP Smalls every Saturday watching the UFC, every Friday morning watching One Championship, and of course on this show at 10 p.m. on Monday nights.
Absolutely. We got more coming this week as well. We've got the Contender Series tomorrow with our last episode of this season of The Ultimate Fighter, closing it out. These are the last of the golden weeks. And also this week, hopefully, we're going to be having a free-for-all too. So you can hang out with both myself and Chase a little bit later in the week. And maybe, just maybe, we're not promising this yet, but there is a new movie that just came out starring Michael Bisping called Atlas King. So keep your eyes out for an MMA on film at some point in the near future with that as well. You can find me on all the socials, letting you know about all of those things coming out at Yama Show. That's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on TikTok. It seems like we've actually made TikTok stick. So make sure you're following on all of those platforms. Appreciate you for doing so. YamaShow.com for all of your merchandise needs, where you can get both Yama and last week's fights merchandise. Appreciate everybody who has bought that, and appreciate all you guys who have stuck it out with us in the chat. You guys are amazing. So with that all being said, you have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week, and as always, fight on.